now entering the Bass Galaxy.
This is Teal's Bass Galaxy. I'm your host. This podcast is about raw, real conversations with real awesome people about bass fishing, bass boats, and heck, there are no limits in the galaxy. Teal's Bass Galaxy is brought to you by Veselka Fishing and Customs and just north of Memphis BBQ, also known as JNO Memphis. Today's guest is, I put $1 in, I win a boat. I put $1 in, I win another boat. I put $1 in, I win another boat. Ladies and gentlemen, the hottest angler in Minnesota to date. He's won another boat and 2 events on the Champions Tour this past year. This is our second time having him. It's such an honor. Noah Schultz, ladies and gentlemen. But anyway, that Hinkle shad?
Yeah.
So is it just easier to work? Does it have a different action? Like the 110s, when they were the business, they had the little shimmy on the paws and the nose down deal. That's what made a 110 a 110 at the, you know.
I don't know. I think it's probably a lot of the hype around it. Like Ben Milliken, he's got 500,000 subscribers, and he throws that Hinkle shad all the time.
I got you.
So I don't know if that's what caused the price increase. Well, number one, you can't get them.
Right.
But of all the glide baits that I've thrown over the years, it probably has one of the biggest glides and the most drawing power out of any glide bait I've used.
Like glides as far as like
width?
width?
It glides big and wide. That's what you want in a glide bait, unless you're fishing cover.
Sure.
You want a tight glide, but
Sure.
I guess that's what makes it so valuable. You can't get them.
Right.
And then, supply and demand, basic supply and demand. Like
right.
$1,300 for a glide bait is insane.
Dude, $1,300 for a glide bait is fucking like stupid.
But if I lost mine tomorrow, I couldn't justify paying $1,300 for another one.
Well, that's just it. Like, that's...
It catches them, though. I shouldn't say it catches them. It catches big ones. Like, we were watching Red Crest a little bit ago, and everyone's throwing glide baits. It looks like they're all throwing the Chad. That's what it looks like. It's hard to tell. Nobody's talking about what they're throwing because it's not like a sponsor brand.
Right.
So they're just throwing and catching fish, and they're just saying glide bait. But it looks like a Chad to me that most of them are throwing. And the prices are going up already on them. I'm sure they're going to continue to go up. I think you can buy one right now for like $300 or $400 online.
Okay.
On eBay. Because they do drops.
The Chad.
Yeah, they do drops.
Isn't that a Spro?
So Spro did a deal with KGB.
I got you.
They did a deal with them, and I think they're selling them for like $50 a piece. But to get the real Chad, you still have to go through KGB, and he does drops.
I got you. So those Spros are knockoffs, or they're true KGB, just co-branded kind of deal?
Yeah, they're just co-branded. I think Spro must have licensed them or something like that.
Yeah.
And copied them. I haven't seen any in person, but they look nice on online.
Oh yeah, they got the little fan tail.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth paying all that extra money. I don't know, because I fish the Arashi, I fish the S-Waver a lot. I fish the Shine Glide. I fish the Molix has got a glide bait for they catch them too. Bait Sanity, they're cheap. I catch a lot of them on Bait Sanity glides. But the Hinkle though, there's definitely something different about it. I seem to draw a lot more fish with it.
Sure.
And I don't know if I fish a lot of the depths 250 too, and that's got a big wide glide. But that takes a lot more talent to fish that than the Hinkle does. The Hinkle,
gotcha.
The Hinkle, you can kind of just straight reel and it works itself. And if you really want to glide, you can get like a 2 or 3 foot glide out of that Hinkle.
You kind of stop your reel to make it glide.
Yeah, I use my reel, so I'll like just quick like a little burst, like half turn.
Okay.
Get the jot off to one side and it just kind of keeps gliding. and I hit it again. It comes back. I see a lot of guys like popping their rod and stuff like that. And I use my reel when I'm gliding, but
It's like 1, 2,
like half turns. And it's hard. Like if you can't see it, you don't know what it's doing. But the more and more you fish these glides, the more you understand, and the more you can feel it in your rod tip. And
yeah.
like, I don't know how to explain it.
No, that's
It's like it's a talent. You gotta fish them to feel what they're doing when you can't see them. And
there's a cadence to it. There's an art form to it. It's like working a jig. I mean, you can't just throw a jig out and like you know.
Yep.
Are you swimming the jig or you know? And then topwater. I mean, or jerkbait cadence. You know.
Yeah.
Like it's not like you can just pick one up and make it do exactly what you want to do.
It's not a spinnerbait. Yeah. Like anybody
it's
can
about
throw
the best. That's the perfect analogy.
Anybody can throw a spinnerbait, but to throw a jerkbait and properly work it, and like a glide bait, it says you have to impart all the action on those lures for them to work. That makes sense, right?
It totally does. I think the chicken, I mean, a swim bait or a chicken, kind of like a glide bait. They're all somewhat swim baits. I mean, I don't think a lot of people in Minnesota are used to like the whole half turn thing.
It's hard.
You know, it's hard to train yourself to do that when you're used to.
Yep. Well, especially
reeling.
too, like when you're thinking big glide baits and you're talking half turns, well, let's say like I run 25 pounds as fluorocarbon on mine.
Sure.
Because I'm throwing 8-foot rods. A lot of them are extra heavies.
Sure.
So I got big line. And when you bomb a glide bait out there, your spool is empty. So your half turn does nothing, but it turns into a half turn the closer you get to the boat. Make sense?
Yeah.
You're moving more line the closer you get to the boat because your spool's starting to fill up with line.
That makes sense.
So you got to constantly adjust.
Okay. So you're doing a half and you're probably turning that into a third?
Yeah, or it might start out as a full turn. And then turn into a half the closer you get to the boat because now your spools, because you got 25-pound fluorocarbon, that fills up your spool pretty fast, you know.
Well, I suppose you can feel that bait and it kind of tells you.
Especially a hinkle, you can really feel what a hinkle is doing.
I got you.
Because they have so much pull when they do pull, and a depth 250's got so much pull when they do pull to the side.
Yeah.
You know when it's turning. You can feel it turning. And you just kind of, and that's when you feel it turn, you kind of stop your reel and you let it glide. And you hit it again and you feel it pull and you let it glide.
So you could probably feel like if you're like pulling it too hard.
Yeah, because
like too much or too little. And if you it sounds like you're pretty intimate.
Yes,
with that bait.
Mm-hmm. Unless you're fishing really clear water, then you can see it. I guess that's a tip I'll give to anybody that wants to get into glide bait fishing. Number one, it's you see way more fish than you catch.
I got
out of every, especially with the forward-facing sonar now.
Right.
For every 30 fish I see follow, I might get one to bite.
Huh.
It's like with a hinkle. And a depth 250, I'll take that. Because a depth 250, that's a 10 inch.
Big
that's
old
a 10-inch bait, you know. So the smaller you go down in the glides, the more bites you get. But then your quality suffers. And they got smaller glides, so I feel like a S-Waver 168 really isn't truly a glide bait. It's like a kind of like a chopping bait. It's really like I would compare it to like a Zara spook, like how far a spook goes back and forth.
I got you.
Kind of what like a 168 S-Waver does.
Sure.
But yeah, one tip I would give to anybody is start on a clear body of water, because then you can cast it out and you can see. Or start on like a calm shore and you can see your glide bait and you can see how it reacts to your turns and your rod movement, and that's the best way to learn. So you start fishing dirtier water or like a windy shore and you can't see your glide bait. You're just assuming what it's doing, and a lot of times it's not acting right and turning right, and you're killing the action. And
so that I'm glad you said that, because to be honest with you, I've never thrown one. Still,
really,
I've just been kind of hard-headed about it. It seems like there's a little bit of cost to get into it.
There is, yeah.
So I haven't made the plunge yet.
Even a cheap one's expensive.
Well, that's just it. And then the setup, the rod, you know. But I want to.
It's addicting. It's so addicting.
Well, we got a lake with rainbow trout, like not that far from here. 2 of them, in fact.
Really?
Yeah, and the water's fairly clear. And I don't know. So
you can buy yourself a depth 250 for probably $100 online in a rainbow trout pattern.
Okay.
Get up. We need like an 8-foot rod to throw it though.
See, I got like I have a flipping stick, you know.
That's not going to do it though.
I know. That's just it. And I just want to go Butch Brown on them for like, 3-4 days or something, and learn that. I feel like a trout lake is a lake I could learn how to do all kinds of different big swim bait stuff.
That's another thing too is like we don't have the forage base around here to be like a really good glide bait area either. So
I got you.
And well, at least where I'm from, the water clarity really kills a glide bait bite too. So
Sure.
it's good in the spring and it's good in the fall for where I live because you have clear water.
Gotcha.
Our water gets really dirty.
Yep.
And
yep.
it really kills that. Like I'll try it a lot, just play around in the summer, and I'll fish it over top of brush piles and rock piles, sink it down, and fish over top.
Yep.
And I'll get it down to like 2 foot, above the surface or a foot above that brush pile, and those
Yep.
fish will not come up to pour it. They will not come up.
Do you find the same thing with the chicken? Or are you able to get those fish to eat a chicken sometimes in that dirtier water?
Well, in dirtier water, I'm keeping it tighter to the bottom. So
yeah, that chicken, you're able to swim a little bit tighter.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha.
So I don't have treble hooks hanging there that'll grab anything that it comes by,
Sure.
You can kind of bounce it off stuff and you're not going to get hung up, I'll actually pop it along. I'll almost fish it like a jig on the chicken.
Sure.
Pull it on the bottom, pop it up a little bit, let it fall, pop it up. I'll fish it on the bottom. But yeah, it's like when the water's dirty, they don't want to come up. I don't know if it's because they can't see it or I don't know what the deal is, but
I mean, I would assume it's harder to see.
yeah, and they're quiet baits too,
Right.
They're not making a bunch of racket to attract attention.
Right.
But if you get a clear body of water like this fall, I was fishing a lake around home, and our lakes get really clear in the fall, and I was fishing a brush pile in 15 foot of water, and I was sinking my hinkle down like, I don't know, 6 foot probably,
Yep.
and it just swarms of them would come up to it. Just
Really?
like 10, 12 at a time would come up. Then one would grab it, and the rest would go back down.
Okay.
That's so cool. But there's a time and a place for it, and tournament fishing, you can die. You will die.
Sure.
We just wrapped up Serpent, and I went home. I had a tournament back home the next weekend. I had a back-to-back. I had a Saturday-Sunday deal, and on Saturday, I had the right conditions. I had clear water, a little bit of a breeze, some sun, and I ended up getting like 22 or 23 pounds. I caught 6 fish all day. They're all glide bait fish.
Sure.
I had like 22 and a half pounds.
Wow.
In second place at 16.
Damn.
So there's time and a place. But then Sunday, next day, so now I'm all, glide bait,
Yep.
Go to the next tournament and just get my teeth kicked in because I couldn't put it down. Like I weighed like 8 pounds and I didn't catch a single fish on a glide bait.
I think everybody can relate with that tournament where you just can't put something down that you absolutely should. I think even the biggest pros. But my big question is with that glide bait, to me, it could be a really like effective practice tool.
Yeah.
Is that something that you?
Mhm.
I mean,
I do it a lot in practice for Champions Tour even.
Gotcha.
I think we might have talked about this last time.
Well, we have, but I mean, digging a little bit like deeper on that, do you notice like little ones come up? Because to your point, you said you're only able to like see way more fish than you catch, right? Which to me is a really good practice tool.
Yeah.
Do them little ones come up to it too, or at least like, okay,
Yeah.
dang. Because at least like with forward facing sonar, if you get good enough with it, I suppose you could tell if it's a big one that comes up to it. But
it draws fish that you don't even know are there, even with live sonar.
Sure.
Those fish that are tight to the cover that you can't get that separation, like Mille Lacs is, for me, is notorious. And I've ran both brands on Mille Lacs, Garmin and Mega Live.
Yep.
And a lot of those fish sit really tight to them boulders.
They do.
And it's hard to get the separation, so a lot of times you don't know if there's fish there or not.
Right.
Or you can see one.
Yep.
And then you throw a bait or you set the hook on one and it pulls like 5 or 6 of them off. And then all of a sudden this boulder just comes alive.
Right.
And a glide bait will do that too. Like I was using it on Mille Lacs when we went there for the championship, but I was using it over shallow reefs.
Sure.
To pull fish.
I got you.
And it would show me where a lot of, because those smallmouth are super curious.
Oh, they are.
Yeah.
They are.
I was throwing a Molex glide bait. It was a white one, a bright white. So I knew they could see it and they would come and follow it. And I had so many follows, and it showed me what reefs had fish and what reefs didn't. And I didn't use those reefs in the tournament though. I ended up not doing that deal.
Sure.
And then Pelican, I threw it on Pelican in practice for that tournament. Kind of clued me into some good areas there, and I used the bull shad in practice in that tournament. I threw the bull shad a little bit in the tournament on that one, but I pussed out and put it down and just stuck with the B2 and caught him that way.
Sure.
But
I mean, confidence is key.
It is a very good tool to find fish.
Sure.
But people think it's not like a Senko where you're going to go out and if there's 5 fish on that dock, you're probably going to catch 4 of them.
Right.
Like
Right.
or if there's a drop shot in that brush pile, there's 10 fish in that brush pile, you're going to catch 7 or 8 of them. Like
Sure.
if you throw that glide bait over that brush pile, you probably won't even catch 1.
Right.
You'll know they're there, but unless the conditions are right, then you might pull the biggest one out and he might grab it.
I got you.
So I don't know, it's super addictive. It will burn you. It's not the only time I got burnt in that tournament. I've been burnt quite a bit throwing glide baits, but
Sure.
when it goes down, it goes down.
Yeah.
And it's magical.
That's what I heard. As we were kind of talking about, you got guys throwing it at Redcrest.
Yeah.
Who'd you all? I haven't been watching Redcrest like crazy anyway. Who have you seen throwing it?
Thrift really was. He's winning. I'm pretty sure he's already won. There's no way he could have been beat today. He probably locked it up, but he wasn't really throwing a glide. But like Elton Jones Jr. was mixing it in a little bit, but he was throwing a Senko and a glide.
Sure.
Edwin Evers was almost all in on the glide bait the last few days, but you watched him miss a lot of fish. Like I was watching yesterday, I was thinking he was catching like 1 out of every 5 he was seeing.
Damn.
Yeah, like he was getting frustrated, and you lose a lot. Well, I shouldn't say you lose a lot. You get a lot of nippers that nip at it.
Yeah, that makes sense.
They don't get it.
Sure.
But and then you got, who else was there? Matt Lee was throwing him a lot. He was throwing a depths 175. Can't remember who else was in the top. Dustin Connell. They were throwing a lot of mag drafts. A lot of mag drafts are getting thrown too. But a lot of them were like today. You listen to Adrian Avina. Yeah. He was locked the glide bait in his hand all day long. That's all he was going to throw because he was in like 9th or 10th. So
sure.
He had nowhere to go but up.
Right.
And I think it was halfway through the second period he had just caught his first fish, and he was saying in a comment that rang true to me, which is what I've been saying, is he was saying like there for like a half an hour he was pulling a fish on almost every single cast. Like he said he had probably seen 50 fish already follow his glide, and he caught 1. Wow. He was halfway through the derby. So there's
How
a part.
Do you not pick something else up, dude?
There's a part that they're not showing there too, you know.
Sure.
They talk about it, but if you watch the live and you listen to these guys talk and you watch them and you watch all the stuff go down, it's a very low percentage deal, but you get the right ones, or you know where they live.
Yeah.
You figure out where they live. That's why I throw it a lot in practice, because it'll draw fish in and show you an area. Like Mille Lacs, a perfect example. People want to try it out. If you don't believe me, go to Mille Lacs, get on a shallow reef, throw like a Molex glide bait, white. You'll pull smallies in. It'll blow your mind how many smallies you'll pull to the boat with that thing, and catch them too. I caught quite a few of them too.
Sure.
But
make me want to do that.
It just has such a drawing power. It's like musky fishing almost.
Yeah.
You raise fish with it because of the size of the bait.
Well, I've been musky fishing, and you get more follows than you do bites. Like
that's glide bait fishing.
It's like Capper used to say, "I seen one today."
That is glide bait fishing, though. You see so many more fish than you actually.
Are you running the turret? The target lock?
Oh yeah.
This year?
Mm-hmm.
That to me is just.
That's the deal.
Crazy.
That is the deal.
Have you played with it?
Oh, I had it all most of the season last season.
I thought you did.
I got it after Vermilion.
Thought there was a reason I thought there was a little extra vegetation hanging off of your setup on Serpent.
Yeah. It
appeared that way.
So it was nice, like on Gull. So we had that north wind pounding on the lake.
We did.
And so my weed line was north facing. So I had to nose or kind of 45 into the wind.
Yep.
But I could take my target lock, aim it right at my weed point, and I could, like, by seeing the fish, I could just hit the lock, and I could just keep firing at them. My Ultrex do its thing, and I could lock on those fish, and I could just keep firing at them until they move around, and refine them, hit lock, peel them away, and then you move a little bit, and
that's crazy.
It's GPS based, so once you lock onto that target, there's a little error, just like with anything. I think there's a position error, like on a Helix has a position error of 3 feet.
Yep. So, I think they do that on purpose so we can't nuke anyone or something like
maybe
something like with the latitudes and the longitudes.
So there's a little bit of play, but not much at all. Like hardly any at all. Like if you were to lock on like that trash can over there, and I'm 60 feet away, and I lock onto that trash can, 90% of the time that trash can is going to stay on my screen.
Can you lock it on like a glide bait?
Nope.
Okay, that was going to be my question. Is like, can you huck a glide bait out, let it sink, lock
wish.
it on, and then
That's
you don't
probably-
need to steer it anymore. You just watch your glide
That's probably the
come
next
back.
level.
That's coming.
That'll be the next thing.
2.0.
Because like like I said, it was GPS based, so it's like an Ultrex. What the Ultrex does is it once you lock in that signal or whatever, how the hell they do it, I have no idea. But once you hit that lock button,
Yep.
and if your boat shifts, it knows it has to adjust so many degrees or whatever to stay where it was. And
Sure.
because the top of the target lock is actually a GPS puck.
Gotcha.
With the arrow one, it's actually a GPS puck.
Just like the okay, so it senses how. That's just crazy to me.
So, but what it's crazy to me that because you think about it, like I talked to a lot of people about Mega 360 and set up your transducer in the back of the boat. Like they'll just slap it on. Yep, that 360 looks about straight. Let's go. Well, you think about it, if you're fishing a brush pile that's 70, 60 feet out, and your 360 you think is straight, but is really a quarter inch to the left, how many feet off are you once you get 70 feet out?
I didn't think about that.
Yeah.
So how do you line your 360 up properly then?
What
you have it on the front of the boat, right?
Yeah. What I do is once I get everything rigged up for the season, I'll go out to a lake that has a bridge.
Yep.
And has a center piling.
I got
and
you.
then I'll wrap her down, or I'll wrap her down in the channel or wherever. I got a channel and it's shallow, so I can wrap it down. I got that bridge piling right in front of my boat, and I stay quite a ways back.
Sure.
So as if I were fishing a brush pile or something, and then I'll line it up so I know right. Okay, yep, it's right dead center on my 360. That bridge piling is dead center right in front of my boat. Like it makes sense on my screen to what I'm seeing in front of me.
I got you.
And then I lock it down.
I got you.
Because you think about it, if you get 70 feet out and you're a half inch off on your shaft, you're gonna be 5-10 feet off.
Totally.
When you're 70, and you think you're throwing this brush pile, but really it's 5 feet, 10 feet over this way. You know?
Right. You got a bunk protractor.
Yeah. So yeah, and then same with I spent a lot of time leveling my transducer and stuff in the spring, making sure that's all accurate to get the best pictures I can. So there's a lot of stuff like that.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal.
Yeah.
Because if your transducer in the back isn't level, you're gonna miss stuff. You're gonna miss a brush pile. You're gonna miss seeing those fish that are sitting next to that big boulder that you would be able to see if you had a clean image.
Right.
Like stuff like that.
Right. Well, clean power and voltage is a big deal too. Mm-hmm. What do you do to kind of mitigate that? Because
it's a huge
there's
problem.
all this weird stuff out with 16 volt or 12 volt, like where you can optimize that image picture.
So I start with my batteries. I never really cared too much about batteries until the last few years where I started to add more and more graphs. And so last year I ran 2 AGMs parallel, not in series. I know like a lot of guys will run one battery just dedicated to the graphs, and then one battery dedicated to their starting motor, which I'm not saying one way is right or the other. This is just how I did it.
Well, with the way you did it, your alternator is charging both batteries, correct?
Yeah.
Versus just one.
Yep. So I ran them in parallel. Created one big battery.
Yep.
And I ran my entire boat off of that.
Sure.
And I never had an issue. And there was one time I ran 3 days on a single charge, fishing 14 hours a day.
Damn.
And I still had, like, on the last day, at the end of the day, I still had, like, 11.7 volts or something like that, which is good,
Yeah.
I never had a battery issue last year, but that's why I started the batteries, and I completely replace everything. I don't replace everything in the boat. I bypass it. I run all my own wires.
With Humminbird, they're pretty specific about the wiring. What gauge, what gauge wire are you running for that?
I probably go a little overkill.
Nothing wrong with that. It's better to over than under.
Yeah, I run 8 gauge for the live.
Yep.
And then I run 10 gauge for everything else.
Sure.
And I run every graph has its own power source. 360 has its own power source. Mega Live has its own power source.
Home runs for everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that way, if I do have a problem, everything doesn't go down.
Right.
Just one thing will go down, and I know where to look.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
And
then like a lot of the boats that come out of the factory and they got, off the battery, they go to the Perco switch, right? And they go to the Perco switch and they have, which is fine. They have like a 6 or 8 gauge jumper wire that goes from the battery terminal to the Perco switch, and then from the Perco switch, a lot of these companies go to a fuse block, and a lot of these companies are running like a 10 gauge wire that goes from the Perco switch to the fuse blocks, and that's what all your power runs through.
Right.
And so it's like a
kind of clogs it.
Yeah, it's a pinch point. It's like it never made sense to me why all these guys spend all this money on. I guess I don't know how I shouldn't say if C Clear does that. Like they run all this money installing all this stuff, and they're running it through this 10 or 12 gauge wire. running all these 5 graphs of this 12 gauge wire because it has to go through that
Right.
to get to the graph. So I got all that. I put 2 to 4 gauge wire in there, replaced everything with 2 and 4 gauge wire, to a fuse block, and then I run from that fuse block. Everything has its own power source off of that fuse block.
Okay.
That's what I do.
That's the right way to do it from what I've learned.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't share power with any one thing.
Sure.
So and I don't know if that helps with interference or not, but I don't.
It does.
I don't have interference issues. I have
Right.
nice, clean images, and if I do have an interference issue, it's because like of a noise filter setting, and I can go in there and change settings and clear up that
Sure.
disturbance on my screen.
Sure.
So when everything's working properly, and I got all my stuff figured out for the year, everybody's firing all cylinders. Like I have crystal clear images. I have zero interference. Everything looks beautiful. You know.
Sure. Sure. Are you running all Helix or all Solix?
Actually, I've ran Helix since they came out, but this year I upgraded all the Gen 4s this year.
Okay.
So the last however many years I've been running Helixes, you've seen me in the Champions Tour.
Yep.
Those are ones I've won along the way. I
Sure.
just kept adding to the boat.
Yeah,
So I had
yeah.
a lot of Gen 2s and some Gen 3s and kind of this hodgepodge of shit, kind of all just made up along the years, you know. And finally this year I'm replacing all that and running all Gen 4s, and that'll help. So all the software will kind of blend together better. Well, now with all these newer electronics we have, like the Mega
Right.
Lives and the Target Lock, it'll just be more efficient. It'll run better, and
For sure.
so that'll be, not that I had any issues, but just when you have that many locators communicating together
Yeah.
and they're all different versions,
Right.
sometimes you can get a little hiccup here and there, and it'll just be cleaner this way.
Absolutely.
So-
Absolutely. Updating your software is that something that you're pretty adamant about doing? I'm a big Nazi about software updates.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing how many issues that clears up for people when they call me or something
If you're
about
not,
it.
I mean, why it's free? I mean, why not? It's free.
It's free. It's all it takes is time.
Yeah, it's
And not that much time.
No.
You put it on a chip and plug it in.
it's
and
free,
done.
and they're fixing issues. You know,
Mm-hmm.
why not do it? And a lot of times it'll make your images better too.
Yeah, you spent $6,000 on the unit.
Yeah.
You might as well take the free updates.
Update comes out, boom, that's the first time I'm doing. Loading it, I'm heading to the lake, kind of seeing what changed, what things look like, resetting all my settings, going through everything again, and yeah, it clears up a lot of like the little, like the things I was just talking about, like a lot of those little tweaks and stuff that kind of like the little bugs that find their way, and that's why I want to run all one generation this year instead of Gen
Right.
3s, Gen 4s, Gen 2s,
Sure.
so they can all communicate efficiently together and just makes everything better, you know. So I'm excited. I can't wait to start rigging.
You like rigging boats? Yeah.
I shouldn't say I like it. I like to rig my own boat.
Yeah.
I don't want to rig other people's boats
I got you.
because I know how anal I am.
Right.
And if I screw something up, I can go back and fix it. But if it's somebody else's boat, like, I'd feel bad.
For sure.
No, I don't mind it. I like to do it because then that way I know that I did it. I know where everything is.
Right.
If a problem does arise, I don't have to call anybody. I don't have to take it to a shop. If I'm on the water and something goes down,
Yep.
I know how to fix it, or I know how to bypass it to get up and running again.
You know where every wire is.
Yeah.
You know how it's
Yeah.
done. See, that makes sense. I was going to ask you, do you have a way that you organize your waypoints? Like,
So
because that's a process, and that's, I think a lot of people struggle with that, myself included, even though I've gotten a lot better at it, but.
I have a lot of waypoints.
Yeah, me
I
too.
like to draw pictures of waypoints.
Me too.
I want to know everything that I can know.
We're visual people,
yeah.
so
It gives you information. If I can draw out this rock pile's got a 90-degree bend and a small point that comes off here, I'm do. Oh, there's a bigger boulder right here. I'll put a different dot there. Like I want to see everything, so when I pull up to it, I know right where to pull up.
Bingo.
It's not
I'm
as
the same way.
it's not as important now as it used to be before, like Mega 360 and stuff like that.
That's so true with live and 360 for sure.
But I still like to draw, kind of give myself an idea. So I have like 20,000 waypoints.
Yeah, same.
So it got to be overwhelming. Like Minnetonka,
Yep.
I ended up just like, now I go to Minnetonka, I don't even load waypoints. I just go fishing and mark dots for that practice for that tournament.
I agree with you. I'm the same
Seriously.
way on that lake because it can get it can get nuts.
Especially for how much the lake has changed over the years. A lot of them waypoints aren't the same anymore.
I feel like I don't catch them off old waypoints on Tonka.
No.
Sometimes, couple,
Yeah, but
but they don't ever pan out for
you
me.
think about like 7 years ago, like main lake, the weed line was like 16 to 18 foot.
Right.
Now it's like 25 foot deep. You know, it's
Right.
like, well, if you want to fish a weed edge, that dot's going to be in 16 foot of water. You got to flip.
You're flipping in the coontail now, bud.
Yep.
Yep.
But yeah, so what I end up doing now, what I do is every lake has its own SD card. That's what I do.
I got you.
So
Yep. That's a good way to do it.
I used to do by like pods of lake, like back home, like Cedar, Shields, Mazaska would get their own SD card, and Washington, Francis, Madison would have their own SD card. But then that ended up getting to be too cluttered, so I just start dividing them, and now I just every lake I go to gets their own SD card, and
Sure.
that's all it is. But that's how I do it.
So I do an area like central Minnesota because it's a bunch of little lakes, and I'll be honest, I don't use a ton of waypoints on, but I do. But it's enough for one card, all of these
Yeah.
lakes, because we don't fish giant tournaments on them. But like Tonka, Vermilion,
Yeah.
those types of lakes, they get their own card,
They
or
have
their
to,
own
you have to.
file, so to speak.
You run Lawrence?
Yeah, with Lawrence, what's nice is I can, make a file, so I can put multiple lakes on one card, and
Yeah.
but when the card pulls up, I pick which lake I want to
Oh,
import.
really?
Yeah.
See, that's nice. See, Hummingbird, you plop the card in and it just uploads the waypoints.
But yeah, I mean, each brand has their advantages and disadvantages, and I think, probably a good transition is, I think it was, June last year we were talking on this, and you had just won a boat the year before, and now here we are in March. Attention all smallmouth anglers. Have you thrown the marabou jig? Have you thrown the hair jig? Well, if you have, you're going to want to listen right now. This podcast is brought to you by Veselka Fishing and Customs, a custom rod shop based out of Minnesota, and he has developed the answer, folks. What if I told you you could throw that marabou jig 30 to 50% further than you're casting it right now? Well, Dane, Mr. Veselka himself, has developed the answer. It's a custom 8-foot hair jig rod developed on a steelhead fly blank. He's put custom fly guides on this, so you're really going to be able to outcast the competition, catch more smallmouth. They aren't going to see you. What more do you need? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. This is the 8-foot hair jig rod, but this guy can build you anything you want. If you can dream it, he can do it. This episode is brought to you by just north of Memphis BBQ. This is World Champion Barbecue. If you smoke meat and you don't like good barbecue, I do not know what to tell you right now besides you need to try some of this stuff. They've got their rub. They've got their sauces right on their website. They've got their famous dry rub award-winning seasoning that you can put on ribs, brisket, pulled pork, chicken, wings, anything you like to put on the smoker, on the oven, on the grill, any meat you like to cook, you need some of this dry rub seasoning in your life. But don't forget the sauce, because that's award-winning world champion sauce here. No matter what flavor you like, they've got 3 different sauces, and they are all good. You can drink them straight out the bottle. We've got Sweet Christie's for all you sweet-loving barbecue folk. We've got Christie's Mischief for all you spicy bass anglers out there. And then we've got Christie's Gold. And they'll sell all 3 of them in a combo, but you need to go to their website right now. It's JNOMemphis.com. That's JNOMemphis.com. Dry rub, sauce, barbecue. Let's go! 2023, and it was funny because we had just finished up the river last year, and you were, I don't know, you were doing good, but all of a sudden, like out of nowhere last year, you win the last 2 events. You win on Gull Lake, and then you win another boat on Serpent Lake. So how many boats are we at? Because I think it's significant.
3.
3 boats. Okay. I think there's been only 3 anglers on the Champions Tour to win boats.
Yes.
Andy Walls, Matt Peters, and Noah Schultz.
Dean Capper won one.
Dean Capper won a boat?
Yep.
Okay. That's crazy, though.
Yeah.
So 3 people have won 1 boat. You've won 3.
Yeah,
That is so cool, dude. And I think, you've really come on the last, however many years here. And it's just cool to see you continuing to have success. Is there like pressure that like comes with that now? Like,
you know what the crazy thing is like, I don't know, like you win one, like you want it, like you haven't won one yet, you want one so bad, you want to win one so bad, and you do it, and it's like, yes, I did it.
Yep.
Now I want to win another one.
Right.
It's like I want to win one more now than I ever have, probably. Like, and I don't know why that is. Like, I just crave it more and more and more. I want to work harder and harder and harder. Like, it's an addiction. I cannot help it. Like, I want to win so bad. But I do feel like there's pressure behind it now. Like, especially by my wife. She expects it now. So, but no, like, I want to win one more now. Like, I want to win Big Stone. You have no idea how bad I want to win Big Stone.
I want to win Big Stone.
I haven't even started practicing yet, but that's all I can think about. Like,
that's all I've been thinking about. I've never been there that time of year. I'm just excited. I'm curious as a cucumber, curious as a cat.
Part of it is just so I can redeem myself from that shit show and performance on Bass Head tournament there. That was bad.
Hey, man, it happens to all of us.
It does,
like,
but
it does.
I think about the losses more than I think about the wins.
We all do.
Yeah.
We all do, because you feel you could have done something different or better. And you could think of maybe one thing, maybe 3 things, but this is probably my greatest blessing and my greatest weakness is that is analyzing an event after I'm done. And there's been a lot of good that's come from that, but it's learning when to shut that off. And like, there's a time to freaking think about the past, and then there's a time to move on.
That just burns me. Like Blackfish last year. I mean, we did good. We got 10th or 9th, I think, like that.
We had no, I thought you beat us by a place.
I don't remember what we got. I know we've been in the top 10. We fished it 3 years. We've been in the top 10 every time.
I've been in the top 10 2 out of the 3 years, but
like we had, I think I put like a day and a few hours in the morning for practice, and my partner put a day in, and we had nothing to go to. And that tournament still burns me to this day. He had a milfoil patch, which was phenomenal. It was loaded with 3-pounders.
Sure, that is good then.
So that was our base. And then I had some kicker spots to go to, and so we had that milfoil patch. It was in the middle of nowhere. Nobody's gonna touch it, so we saved it. We went to a couple big fish spots first. Caught a 4 3/4. Great,
Damn. Yep. We could have used one of those.
Then we caught like another 2 3/4. Went to his milfoil spot. We loaded the boat. He kicked my ass in that milfoil spot.
Huh.
Drove me crazy. We're flipping in the same holes.
Sure.
And he's just 4 to my 1. I'm like, what the hell, Anyways, so I'm back to where I caught the 4 3/4, and I fire in there, and God, it was shallow.
Yep.
I could see her.
You could see her.
Yeah, I seen her come up. God, I was mad.
You lost it or got it?
No, I didn't. She just swiped. She didn't get it. God.
Well, if you could see her, then you were on some cleaner water shallow fish then.
Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, we were up shallow. God, it was a dock. I'll just say. I could see her in there.
Yeah. Yep.
I slid in there and I watched her go down and flash. And I swear I felt it. And I set the hook, and I could just a little bit of load in the rod tip, and it's probably the same size as the first one. 4.
Yeah.
4.5. And would have upgraded 1.5 pounds. And I think we went to 1x. I think 22-1 or something. But we would have got second. Just stuff like that. That's the whole point of the story. Is like going back to it. That's what I focus on.
Right.
That's what drives me crazy.
Right.
I think about the wins a lot, but I think probably more about the losses, the missed opportunities, and.
Well, you learn more when you don't. I mean, you learn when you win. Like, okay, everything we did is a winning recipe, right? You learn a recipe when you win, basically, or a little decision maker thing that's like, you get to use for later. But I learned so much more on those tournaments that I didn't win. Like that Gulf tournament I took second to you on. I mean, it was priceless what I learned.
That was close.
That event.
I just kept thinking that at last, like 20 minutes, half an hour, I'm just like, he's going to pull up to a little juice hole he's been saving, and cork 3 or 4 in a row, and it's all going to be over.
Dude, and I
think I even said that in the video. Like he's going to pull up to the spot and catch 3 or 4.
You did. I mean, we'll get into all of it, but I think it was crazy watching the video after. I learned a lot about you actually in that last 30 minutes, but I mean, I felt very good that whole time. Like the spot I adjusted to as soon as you took the lead, I'm like, all right, I know where we got to do this. I got a deep spot with rock, and then I've got a, with a weed line, and then I've got a flipping spot that's 20 yards away from that, and then I've got a really good stretch of docks. This is the last 40 minutes. It's going to happen one of those 3 ways. We're going to work our way in, and I ended up starting out on the tip.
You caught like a 3 something though, didn't you?
In the first 10 minutes, I caught a 3. I never just catch 1 there. I always catch at least 3 of them there. But right as I had caught that 3, Figgy pulled in on them docks.
I heard about that.
And he whacked them. And it was just one of those things. I couldn't get another bite out offshore. At that point, it was slicked off. It was sunny.
That's what made me decide to stay on the docks.
Well, right. And it was like my adjustment. It was like, what I learned is okay, the weather, you need to play the weather. Okay, it's sunny and calm. If I'd have started on them docks and then fished the weed line, I'm not saying I might have beat you, but it would have been.
You probably would have.
I mean, I watched Figgy.
You were just a couple fish away.
I watched Figgy catch the fish. It was heartbreaking, but it was so awesome looking at the video after the event and watching you in this robotic, automatic, like they say, get in that zone of flow, or that zone that you're just in your own world, your own universe. And you had that. You were in that zone, universe.
I felt really dialed towards the last couple hours that term. I felt really dialed in that one.
It was unreal to watch because, I mean, I watched you skip on her dock and you were so robotic and automatic with it that the jig hit you in the face the one time. You're like, and you just kept doing it. It didn't even like half-ounce jig hits you in the face. It didn't even phase you. And that, just from a mental standpoint, I learned a lot just going back at that event. And I just want you to know, dude, you earned it. And I have all the respect in the world for you made me work for what you do. Well, you make me a better angler, and I think that's what's cool about the league we fish in, and the people we fish against is competition makes you better.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then watching you on Serpent with the trolling motor, I think you drug probably Snoop Dogg's stash worth of freaking weeds on that trolling motor.
Yep.
It was kind of half cocked up. Do you have like something you wedge in?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Bottle or
my flip
2x4? Your flip flop.
Flip flop. You see, I did the same thing on Gull too.
No shit.
If you see me barefoot, my trolling motor is probably like this. I sacrificed. I buy Walmart flip flops just for that reason.
Do you T-bar it?
Yeah.
Like, okay, so you don't go the long way?
No, T-bone.
T-bone that, and
it ruins your flip flop after a few days, but that's why I usually carry a few pairs with me.
Okay,
but,
I got you.
It's good in shallow water, so that way you're not. I don't have to mess around raising my trolling motor up.
Right.
You know, and I can keep it at an angle so it goes through the grass a little bit better, unless it's really, really, really thick. But yeah, it's just something I've been doing that for years. But
I've seen people do it with a block of wood. I've seen people do it with like a bottle of Mountain Dew.
Yeah, I suppose it's a good idea
Mountain Dew bottle, but the flip flop thing, that's a new one. So
it's just what I have, and I just
right
throw it in there, and away I go.
Now that's crazy, and I know. So you won a couple events like Fish and Docks. You've won an event offshore, and you've won Fish and Smallmouth. You've won boats doing all of those things, right? The Bay Lake was a boat.
Bay Lake was camping.
Mille Lacs was a boat.
Camping on spot. Mille Lacs was shallow.
Didn't you win? Oh yeah, no, you won 3 boats.
Yeah, I wish I won 4.
There's good. There's all in good time.
But then we had Serpent was just junk fishing.
Yeah, I saw that.
It was there's a lot.
That offshore bite died.
I knew that was going to happen. I knew it. That's why in practice, the mornings were always good. The first couple hours, those fish would react, and you can give them the bite. But the higher that sun got, the tougher it got. And you could just watch them on Mega Live, and you could just see their attitude. and how it would go from somewhat willing to play just to you could go hours and see
Right.
hundreds of smallmouth and not catch any of them. So I'm like, I know I had a good largemouth spot. So let's talk about this.
Yeah.
How everyone thinks it's a little fish deal, right?
Right.
Let's talk about this. I think about this all the time, right?
Yep.
So you look at the Moolah Cup standings, right?
Yep.
Matt Thompson, obviously. He's going to win everything.
Winner chicken dinner. Yep.
And then last year, I didn't even know this until a couple weeks ago. I looked at the Moolah Cup standings. I was second
You were?
for the year.
I never look at them. That's sweet.
Yeah. So all the people that say, "Oh, you're just fishing for little fish," you come to the Champions Tour and fish for little fish and see where it gets you.
Well, right. You had Matt Thompson was the Angler of the Year, Moolah Cup champion.
Yep.
And then you had one guy win 2 events, including a boat, the championship, Moolah Cup second.
Yeah.
So you guys caught the biggest bass all year, too.
Mhm. The only exception to that rule, and I thought long and hard about this, was serpent. That was the only exception to the rule, and I made a decision not to fish them smallmouth.
Yeah.
If it was a 5-fish tournament, I would have absolutely died on them smallmouth.
Yep.
But for that format, yeah, I did tend to chase a little bit smaller fish
Mhm.
just because I knew those smallmouth would shut off.
Sure.
Otherwise, if them smallies would have bit all day long, I would have never went for largemouth.
Sure.
But through all the practice, they were acting like that. What are the odds that it's going to be high sun slick, call me up 25 boats in the lake, that they're going to decide to bite all of a sudden? You know? So I'm like, I rolled the dice and assumed that they weren't going to bite, so I didn't even start on them. And I started on largies. But the Serpent Lake was the only exception to that whole, everyone, oh, these guys are just fishing for little fish. I think somebody should add it up. Like, go back through the
Be
standings.
curious.
Take like the top 15 of every tournament, add up their biggest 5,
Right.
and see where they would, how it would. I don't think it would adjust, obviously, but I don't think it would adjust like what people think.
I think you're probably right.
Yeah.
And I've gotten off that train, and dude, that serpent event, I mean, so going into Gull, I was like somewhere between like 35th and 42nd for points, right? So I didn't do any pre-practice on serpent, nothing. And it was like Gull was like the week before serpent.
Yeah. I actually got lucky, so I had to do a blackfish photo shoot on Gull
Okay.
like 2.5 weeks before the Gull tournament.
Sure.
So I was up there for 3 days doing a Gull photo shoot.
Okay.
And
Yep.
after the third day, I got done at about lunch. So then I jogged over to Serpent for that half day, stayed in a little dive motel, and I fished the entire next day on Serpent, and then drove home.
Smart.
So I had a day and a half of pre-practice before official practice.
Well, and that made sense. And the
You know,
problem
you know what,
is,
sorry to cut you off. You know what the
No,
funny
you're
thing
good.
was is you don't realize how hard these guys work in the Champion Tour,
oh, they work hard.
because we're 3 weeks out from Serpent or 4 weeks out from Serpent, or
Yeah.
however long it is, and I'm there on a Wednesday.
Sure.
And we're nowhere near tournament time. There's Matt Thompson. There's Kyle Shuda. I'm like, Tony Hatt. And I'm like, what the hell are all these guys doing? This is crazy.
They want to win.
Yeah. I'm like, holy shit, man.
They know what it takes to win. There's a reason you're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
These guys don't mess around.
Well, had I been a little bit higher in the standings, I'd have probably been there on that Wednesday too. But I mean, I knew I needed a top 5 on goal to even have a shot at the championship, and I was fortunate to have that. But then we had Big Stone, which was the day before Serpent, the day before.
Mhm.
And I ended up taking 2 practice days on Big Stone, driving from Champs Tour to do that. And that was a mistake. I should have gone to Serpent.
That's another thing that doesn't get talked about either. Like, Serpent, there's like a whole slew of things that happened for me to help me win that tournament.
Yeah.
And that was part of it. A lot of guys weren't even there practicing because they were at Big Stone.
Well, that screwed me, dude, because I'll be honest, I was late. I was 2 hours late to the whole thing. Everything.
Yeah.
I'm like, I Google Earth the lake. I'm like, okay, there's sand. There's shallow sand. It's a nice calm morning. I'm going to go throw topwater for smallies. I get to these sand spots, and there's cabbage everywhere.
Mhm.
Like, God, I need a buzzbait right now.
That's why I caught one on buzzbait.
Yeah, I know, but like I was already like in panic mode a little bit. Not like panic, but I was like, oh shit. I don't have time to tie on a buzzbait. This guy Hunter Went has X many pounds. Like we need to get offshore. So I went offshore and caught some bass, but it sucked.
Yeah.
I just was late.
I didn't plan on throwing a buzzbait during the tournament. But the conditions that morning, like I pulled to my first largemouth spot, and I thought I had the best spot in the lake. Like it was
Loaded.
insane how many, and they're all like 2 to 3 pounds largies. Like this is gonna be lights out, you know.
Yeah, yeah.
But there's fish are never on my starting spot ever. And I get there and me and Nichols are sharing the spot, and he catches a 3-pounder. I catch like a 2.5, and it's just dead. I'm like, what the hell? So I go to my next spot and it's a flat.
Yep.
Like you see the tops of the cabbage. Like screw it, grab a buzzbait out of the rod locker. Didn't throw a buzzbait at all in practice, but it just looked right. You know? Bombing out there, 2.5 pound smallie, 2 pound smallie. I'm like, hell yeah! So I grab the hair out of the rod locker, the fluff, largemouth, largemouth.
No way.
I'm like, what the hell? But I caught like
Right.
That's
Smallies on a buzzbait, largies on a fluff.
yeah. But that's the part that people didn't see that morning. Is like I caught a lot of weight on hair and a buzzbait. Like
That's cool.
And then I went from that, I transitioned from that into fishing for deep smallies,
Yep.
just to check a few places.
Did you catch any?
No.
Yeah. I
No,
couldn't
I-
get one
I-
on
I
the
could-
bite.
I went
I
on-
could see them.
I went to what I thought was my best spot, and I went out there. Nobody's on it, and there was like 15 of them in this big school sitting on like 3 or 4 boulders. You know, I'm like, yes.
Right.
Grab the A rig, 5, 6 of them fall at nothing. Grab the drop shot, nothing. Grab the Ned rig, they all nothing. I'm like, I'm out. I'm not fishing for another smallmouth the rest of the day. You know?
Yeah.
And I go from there, go to a deep weed line, crack a little school quick with a target lock, crack a little school there, and then go from that. And I decided to go shallow.
Well, it got sunny and slick early in that day.
Yeah, and that's when that sun got high. Then I started beating the bank. And every time I went shallow, I'd get a bite and get some flipping paths, catch them on a dock, and the next thing you know, I'm like, screw it. Let's just go junk fish. And that's what I did all day. Junk fished all day.
Well, you kind of let the fish tell you to do that, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
I hate the saying, but everyone's like, we just gotta keep it honest, you know. Like I get so used, but that's literally what I did. So I checked every pattern that I thought that I justified in my mind would be a good pattern. I checked every single one of them. Some of them I rechecked, and the ones that I just kept building confidence in certain patterns, and those are the ones that I rolled with. And yeah, it was nothing. I shouldn't say nothing, but I ended up winning the tournament on stuff I never even fished in practice.
Sure.
You know? Like
but it fit the pattern.
it fit the day and the pattern.
Right.
Yeah.
And see, gull was kind of that aha moment for me with having that, I called it staying positive, testing negative, but
That was awesome.
keeping them honest, right? So going into gull, I mean, deep, shallow, mid-range, I had 3 pretty good patterns that I had a lot of confidence in. And, I mean, I caught all my fish offshore besides a couple, but I started on docks the second half, even though I'd caught most
did,
of my
huh?
fish offshore in
Did
the
you get
first
'em?
half. No, but it was cloudier at the beginning of the second half.
It was.
And that was like looking back on that event. It's like learning from.
It was.
It was cloudy, and I would have done a lot of things different because when I finally moved offshore, a light bulb kind of stuck for me, but it wasn't hot and heavy, as you know.
No.
And then it got really cloudy, and I picked that crankbait up, and it was like, rah, rah,
Yeah, I know.
rah. And then it got sunny, and then I caught a few more offshore, but the docks didn't go at the beginning of that half for me.
Well, they didn't go too hot and heavy for anybody, I don't think, at the beginning of the half.
And that was my best stretch of docks that I started on. And like hindsight, I probably should have gone back and hit that stretch again when it got sunnier. But I shared it with the guys, so I didn't know how long he had been beating on them. But obviously that didn't matter. Knowing how close you were to other guys, that didn't matter.
You heard that story, right?
Yeah. The dock,
man.
Doc, you're catching them on. Bankston was catching them on that. Caught probably a fish on that dock. 3 guys probably caught a fish on that dock.
I waited for Bankston to get done fishing it. I pulled up, and he was fishing. I ran to that specific dock, and he was fishing it. I'm like, shit. I'm like, well, it looked like he was about done. So I'm just sitting there, and I don't know. If I pissed you off, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. But I was just kind of sitting there. My motor's idle. I'm just kind of sitting in the seat like this. And he's like, yeah? I'm like, I'm just waiting, dude. I just want to fish that dock.
Yeah.
He's like, okay. I'm like, you almost done? He's like, yeah. Let's make a couple more flips. And I'm like, I'm like, okay, cool. You mind if I pull him right behind you and fish it? He's like, no, go ahead. I'm like, cool. I slide in there. He goes to the next one. He catches like a 2.5 pounder. I flip in, catch a 2.5 pounder off the dock he just left. And I roll around to the backside, catch another 2 pounder.
Sure.
But it's just, yeah. But they were reloading, and I knew that. I figured that out in the tournament.
That was the key.
That was the key.
I mean, they like to think that you hit the dock, the lift, the other side of the lift, and you're done. Like there was a lot more bass swimming around there than just once under the dock, once under the lift, once under the other side of the lift. And you could probably do that 5 times, or you probably could have sat on a dock and just kept making.
There was some certain docks that were better than others, but
for sure.
I started offshore in the second half.
I got you.
My primary thing was offshore. I spent like a half day.
That's what I wanted to do.
I spent like a half day practicing docks on gull, and in the morning, I was fishing offshore. I was doing pretty good, you know.
Yeah,
I was doing
yeah,
okay.
yeah. Good morning.
But then every spot I went to was just dud, 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 and I'm like, I'm fishing this weed line where I had a bunch of fish on this weed line. I'm not getting bit. I'm like, told my boat marshal, I'm like, screw it, we gotta slide in and fish these docks.
Yeah.
Just to see if they slid and pulled in. I didn't fish these docks
First
in practice.
half?
First
You're
half.
talking?
Yep. So I start running the stretch of docks, like 10 docks, and I catch like a 3.2 and a 2.12 and like a 3.15 or something like that. I'm like,
yep.
Okay. Light bulb goes off. I got another little area I think we should check quick, you know.
Yep.
Right inside of a good weed line I had. Run over there, slide in. I don't catch big ones, but I catch like 7 or 8.
Yep.
And they're all scoreable. So I'm like,
Right.
all right, well, this now I'm starting to think about the second half now as I'm fishing the first half still. I have 3 big schools in the second half offshore.
Yep.
I'm like, all right, we're going to go to the best school first. Run to the best school in the second half. We ease off. First cast, boom, catch one. I'm like, yes, they're here.
Right.
And I proceed, I'm sharing it with Holland, and I proceed to go like another 20 minutes without a bite.
You're by. I probably hadn't got out there yet.
Probably not. I probably bailed before you got out of there.
Yeah.
And I'm watching him. He's not catching anything. Tony Hatton's a couple 100 yards down. He's not catching anything. I'm like, okay, they're not here. I just caught a pile of fish in the morning on the docks. Screw it. Let's run to some docks, you know. And
Yeah.
grab a stretch. I did practice the stretch in practice. And I make a pass on what I thought was the best stretch, and I didn't catch shit. You know, I caught a couple. And I'm like, well, let's just keep going, you know.
Yep.
So I just keep going and going and going. All of a sudden I start hitting a couple, like 2.5. So you can hear me talking about it in the video.
Yep.
Like, we're not getting many bites, but, you know, it's keeping us in the hunt. I'm trying to think about all this when it's going on. I'm just getting ready to give up on this dock pattern. You're talking about, like, the weather changing a little bit, you know.
Yep.
And it's cloudy. I'm talking to them, and I'm talking to my boat marshal. I'm like, I think we need to go offshore, you know.
Yep.
I can get, like, 5th doing this, you know, but I can't win. Like, we need to go offshore. But we're going to fish these next 10 docks quick. And I'm fishing, and the sun's starting to get bright. And it's getting brighter, it's getting brighter. I'm like, you know what? Let's just rerun all these docks we just fished. Because we caught some decent fish. Let's rerun them all. And that second pass through, it's like a whole wave pulled in. And it's like boom, 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 boom. Screw it. Let's run through them again.
Yeah.
Ran through them again. Boom, boom, boom. They just kept coming in and coming in and coming in. I'm like, well, that's what we're going to do all day, I guess. You know?
Right. Because I could catch like 3, boom, 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 and then there'd be a lull. But like in the morning, I went south, and I'm like, there's no way we're going to get our starting spot. I knew I had a school like that no one had found. It was a pretty sneaky little school. But my bigger school was on a spot that I saw people practicing. And
I practiced it. I didn't catch shit there.
Oh, dude, there's a pile of them.
I know. And you caught them on tournament day.
I had a little deal that I figured out how I can make those offshore fish bite. And it was not my standard offshore program. And I'm not going to get into that, but it's funny. After that spot had died, I went to my best dock on this. I'm like, there's multiple good fish on this dock. I only caught one. I go, that's weird. So I ran some more docks in the morning. This is probably about 8:30, 9 o'clock. And nothing. Like on a good stretch. I'm like, well, shit. And then I sat on that sneaky school the rest of the time, and I caught them pretty good. Then the second half, I shared that dock stretch with Sickinator in the morning, and neither of us really caught them. So I'm like, okay, let's get the offshore deal going. And I ended up sitting in one area offshore where I caught all of my fish in the second half.
I seen where you were sitting.
And that tainted me a little bit. I think going to the docks was a tough adjustment after I'd led the tournament all day, getting, there's 20-minute lulls, but then you catch 3 of them or 4 of them.
That's the hardest thing to do in a tournament is like
If you're leading, you're okay with those lulls. That's what I learned.
Yeah.
And I've never led in that format before. So it was hard. Like, that was like an aha moment for me, is if you're leading, it's easy to have lulls, or easier. You can be okay with lulls if you catch 3 and are still leading.
But then you got people all of a sudden, you're getting
That last 2
they're
hours.
a pound behind you, they're a pound ahead of you, and you're like, and you're in a lull. It's like, shit.
That last 2 hours of that event was that.
Do you stay or do you go? Like, that's what makes it hard. Like, I remember, it's like Bay Lake. Like, I just ran the clock out.
You did.
Like, it was just like, please do not let Matt Thompson catch this one. So if he catches one, I'm done.
Right.
I got nothing else to go to. I don't know where else to go. I'm done. If he catches one, his average fish is like 2.5 pounds, and he's 2 pounds behind me. You know, I'm like, I just got to run this clock out. I just got to catch a couple more 1-pounders. You know, and that's what I did. And somehow he did not catch one. Serpent Lake, I feel like I ran the clock out in Serpent Lake too.
Yeah.
It's like the last 25 minutes I didn't catch a fish. Maybe 20 minutes I didn't catch a fish. I'm just like trying to run the clock out. Like,
that's how I felt like I was trying to do on gull, but
like,
didn't.
My pattern's dead. I've ran everything I could. Everything's dying. Everything's dead. Like, at this point, I just got to catch a 1.5-pounder and hope he doesn't catch one.
Right.
And he did, but it come unbuttoned. Like,
right.
Sometimes I feel like I don't want to call it luck, you know, but not luck on my part, like what I did, but lucky that like Hunter, when he loaded up on that fish, would come off. Because I only beat him by 1.5 pounds.
Right. The thing I've noticed about you winning, and I don't know how Bay Lake is, but for, I mean, 2 of the boats you've won and gull, you're heating up when other people are cooling down.
Yeah, that helps.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it helps
like,
a lot.
towards the end of the day.
That's when I really start picking up steam.
Yeah, you're picking it up, and everybody else is like trying to run the clock out on you.
Yeah.
Right? And to me, that's the difference between me and Hunter and you. Like, from my perspective, Hunter, I mean, had it. And gull, I feel like I had it. It was just a matter of I couldn't keep the steam rolling.
Yeah.
I had burnt the steam up at 2:30 or 3. Hunter burned the steam up at whatever time, and you kept the steam. Your steam builds.
I was starting
the
slow.
event.
Yep. It's getting better and better and better and better. Because I'm building on what I'm learning as the day is going on.
Right.
And I'm starting to develop patterns, and I'm starting to run them.
And that, I think, is what makes you special as an angler. And I think, you know, why so many of us look up to you. And I think that's why it's a big reason why I think you've done what you've done. It's a mental sport.
It is, yeah.
And it's a crazy sport that way.
I love
but
it.
like weather, decision making, lure, you know, I mean, there's so many facets to it, and there's a lot of ways to skin the cat.
So many, and it can be won so many different ways.
Oh gosh, yeah. I mean, gull, you can win 10 different ways. I mean,
like serpent, I felt like I could have.
That was a wild card.
But serpent, like I felt like I had 3 patterns that legitimately could have won the tournament.
Sure.
You know, and this, which one was it going to be? You don't know until the day of, you know, and
right.
And you got to try to experiment and figure that stuff out during the tournament, but not waste too much time.
Right.
And try to, like, pattern A might be good in the afternoon, but if you try it in the morning, you write it off, and it turns on in the afternoon, you're late to the game.
Right.
Like, it's like I said, so mental. It is such a mental game.
Well, I was talking to Seth last week, and, you know, he talks about Lake Minnetonka, how a lot of the pros have come from Lake Minnetonka, your Felix, your Fighters, your Moinas, you know? And I mean, that lake is a prime example of right place, right time. Like, there's so many spots on Lake Minnetonka that are so good for a half hour to an hour out of this given day of the week because of these things, because of that wind, because of that weather, because of that whatever.
My thoughts on Minnetonka. What do you tell me if I'm wrong? But I just feel like Minnetonka is more like a spot lake.
You think so?
I think it's kind of like a spot lake.
I disagree.
Really?
100% disagree.
I think.
No, I don't 100% disagree, but I 70% disagree because, well, I shouldn't say that because I think you've had some success off of Tonka fishing a little bit differently than maybe other people have had success on Tonka, like 2 spots fire. Now, granted, for me, typically Tonka is 2 to 3 spots fire when I do good on Tonka, but I fish 10. You know what I mean? Versus I think the success you've had on Tonka is how many spots do you fish versus how many of those spots fire. You know what I mean?
So the reason why I say Minnetonka is a spot lakes because probably how I fish it.
Sure.
I will milk a spot.
Yeah.
On Minnetonka.
You'll fish 2 spots a day?
Yeah. If I go to a spot, I start on a spot and I get like a 4.
Yep.
I'm not scared to sit there for 4 or 5 hours.
I think that's wonderful.
But that's probably why I think it's a spot lake.
Well, it's funny because I fish other lakes that way. Like that is, I mean, camping out and fishing an area and intimately getting to know an area is how I fish a lot of lakes, but not Minnetonka for some reason.
That's crazy.
And you're the only person who's made me think about like I need to do that more.
A good spot is a good spot.
You're right. And they live there and they live in that area, but they just don't like to bite very much. So you got to be super tedious with them and super tedious with that spot. We did that for Team Trail this year. I mean, I had 3, Dane and I, each of us had 2 like really good areas we felt good about, but the weather was post-frontal, sunny, calm, the worst weather for the offshore deal we wanted to do for those groups of fish we had found, and we sucked. And it was like one of those days where if you went to the dirty dirt and you junk fished, those guys had, 15 to 18 pounds. But, I mean, we had like 13th place with like 11 or 12 pounds. And I'm talking cappers fishing, raveling.
I heard that was a really bad one.
It was.
I heard it was really bad.
Ugly. And I mean, we had I had a better practice for that event than the blackfish.
Really?
And we had better finish in the blackfish than that event. But
Quite
weather
horrible.
plays a big. I think weather plays a big deal with those fish that get a lot of pressure.
It could.
So you are cool with the hover rig coming out?
Yeah, we'll talk about hover rig.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this hover rig, I watched a Matt Stefan video on a new head that came out.
That's why I'm cool with talking about it.
Yep.
Because he's really blasting it out there.
He is. He's fighter flying that shit.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I bought a bunch of them, and they got mailed last week, so I should have them this week, hopefully.
I almost bought a bunch. I mean, it's at certain places I think it could be really good.
If you want to play with it, have you tried it yet?
I haven't.
Okay.
I haven't. Have you messed with it with the nail weight and stuff?
So I actually bought hooks overseas through Japan, and then I bought them before the river last year. I bought a bunch of them from Japan. I can't remember what kind of they were called, like hover shot hooks.
Yep. It's like, is it Ryugi? No.
Yeah. I think it is.
Yeah, it's Ryugi.
You can only get them overseas right now.
Ryugi.
So the downside I have with them, the whole hover rig in general, which I think Matt did a great job solving the problem. I haven't used it yet, but like I think he hit the nail on the fucking head.
You use a lot of baits.
Yes. So I use it a lot on Vermilion, and oh my God, do they eat it. Like, it is incredible.
Sure.
How well they eat this thing. But man, did I go through baits, and man, did I go through sinkers. And so then I was trying to come up my own way to keep the bait on the hook. And the Ryugi has, a barb to keep it on there and all that, but
it's still just a hook shank.
Yeah, and it sucks. And you catch a smallmouth and they shake, and woof, there goes your worm, or it gets tore up and it doesn't want to stay on there anymore. So I was putting O-rings over the bait where the hook would 90 at, and that helped a little bit. But yeah, I think I bought a bunch of them. I spent like $70 on his hooks. So
yeah, they all come.
Not yet, no.
Okay,
but I like that he used a bigger hook.
Right.
And I like that he integrated the actual weight onto the hook.
The design is awesome.
I think it's going to be spot on.
Yeah.
I haven't used him yet. We'll see what kind of quality hook he's actually got on it. But
Bankston showed me that video, and he was just gone about it. But I think they're like, I fish a tube a lot. A tube is something I love to fish.
It's just a finessier. It's got the same action.
Like that fall is similar to a tube, so I was just like, yeah, that is going to work.
I was practicing on Vermilion with it, and I threw it a little bit in the tournament. I just didn't have any luck with it on the tournament, but in practice, I'm like, man, they were down in their throats.
Sure.
Like, they were just crushing it, and oh my God.
Flatworm or?
Yeah, flatworm.
Yeah.
I play with some other worms with it for largies and stuff like that too, but I see it more as a smallmouth deal. But now with Matt's hook a little bit bigger hook, a little bit more of a weight, you can probably transition into Senkos and stuff like that.
Right.
So maybe some beaver baits and stuff like that. Maybe play around with largemouth, because what he fishes a lot of largemouth with it. But
because a jigworm, you can get a jigworm to spiral like that, but I don't know if you can get a jigworm to dart like that when you're once it hits the bottom. Like a jigworm, a 330 second ounce head, you get the right head, and a Senko, you can get that jigworm to spiral down. But I don't think it has the same pull up and dart action, so to speak.
It's different. It's hard to cast too.
Gotcha.
It's really hard to
light.
cast. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
you need that Vasilka hair rod for that.
I know. I like the hover rig. I actually used it quite a bit last year, and I'm glad somebody finally solved the problem with it, because I think it's going to be a legitimate rig for the future. I think it's going to be, like a mainstay, like a Nico and a.
Yep.
Might not be as powerful as a Nico and a drop shot and a jigworm, but
seems like it would hang up in the grass a little bit more.
But that might be good.
It's a reason we get a crankbait hung up in the grass or something hung up in the grass. Yeah.
I think it'll become a staple in my fishing. I guess I can't say for sure. I've only strictly fished smallmouth with it. I have played a little bit with largemouth, but like I said, going back again to my home lakes are really, really dirty. So typically, like a Ned rig and really small baits like that don't do super well.
Right.
But now with Matt's new hook coming out, and if everyone wants to try it, it's coretackle.com.
Yep.
Like, it's him and Johnny Schultz from Fish the Moment.
Yep.
They started this company. It seems legit. I think he solved all the problems with the hover rig.
I mean, it seems like you don't go through anything for baits, and it's kind of like it's power finesse, because it's got a little bit of erraticness to it, or dartiness to it, that I think generates a different bite than, say, just like a Ned rig sitting there. His video
does a really good job showing what it looks like falling down.
Right.
Like it's a gliding, falling, erratic motion. Like a Ned rig is just bloop to the bottom. Right.
Well, they'll catch, like the hover rig was originally designed with like a minnow bait for like suspended bass, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Like, so you can almost, from what I understand anyway, like hair jigs, you could tow them.
I thought it was, yeah.
You could tow them behind the boat.
Well, I thought it was meant to cast out and click and let it pendulum back, wasn't it?
It's kind of a pendulum bait.
Yeah.
Yep, that way for forward-facing sonar and Japanese type deal, right? But anyway.
I'm excited to try them. I'm gonna
too.
Like when I first come across it, I cannot remember where I seen it. It had to be on YouTube. I seen it somewhere on YouTube. And I instantly went online and bought some of the hooks. And the first thing that popped in my mind was smallies, because I can't tell you how small those Ryogi hooks were. Like they were like trout hooks.
Right.
Like they were, so you couldn't put anything bigger than a flatworm on them.
Right.
So,
you got Takuito catching like 8-pounders on a 5-pound line.
Yeah.
Shit.
But now he's come out with a bigger hook with the weight built in. And I'm excited. I'm gonna try some Senkos and stuff on it and kind of see how it goes, and maybe some smaller creature baits and stuff. I think it'd be pretty cool. I love to experiment with new baits.
Well, speaking of new baits, that I forget, Seth and I could not remember this guy's name last weekend. That new Japanese guy who's.
Oh my God! I know what you're talking about.
You ever shake the dice?
The square thing.
Yeah, the square thing.
I sent a screenshot to my buddy. I'm like, I'm buying like all of these. I said.
Yeah. We were buying these little pieces of shit before. These little pieces of poop shaped things. Now we're buying dice.
My buddy texts back. He's like, looks like something. We have a friend named Duh back home. We call him Duh. He's like,
Okay.
Looks like something Duh would sink in the lake for some structure. Like those PVC things, that's what it looks like.
Right.
Oh, God.
Those Bill Dance feeder things.
Yeah. Yep.
But that thing, I mean, he's catching them on that.
I know. That's crazy. That it just goes you to show maybe we overthink this whole bass fishing thing. I don't know.
Overthink it enough to buy some dice with hair on it.
Yeah, I'll be buying some once they come to the market. I think it's a prototype still, isn't it?
I saw like the hookup tackle had them.
Oh, really?
But they're sold out. So someone's selling them.
Well, if it makes the cover of, it makes not the cover, but if it makes on the Bassmaster website, you can pretty well guarantee it's gonna be sold out wherever it is.
It's a fact. That's a fact.
I love trying new baits. I bought some new baits the other day. Then I don't know. I'm excited to try them. They're really off the wall, but
that can be really good.
We'll see. I think it's going to be a big fish bait. But well, I mean, it could be absolutely not. I buy a lot of stuff and it just ends up being garbage and it just sits in my garage and I don't ever touch it again. But you know,
Yeah.
you gotta try like the chicken we were talking earlier.
Yep.
Like I feel I got on that bite early
Right.
before it was even talked about around here.
Yep.
And I was throwing the hog farmer stand up hair jig, it's called.
Yep.
And I've been fishing that up until Outcast come up with theirs. I was fishing that for 6 years maybe.
That's crazy.
Before Outcast come out with the chicken, 7 years before Outcast come out with the chicken.
Sure. Sure.
My biggest bass I've ever caught in my life, come on, in Minnesota.
Yep.
I
yep.
kept that thing a secret for years. Schrader was pissed at me. One day we went out to our local lake and we're catching fish on a jerkbait. You know, the water's clear and cold, and I'm like, screw it, I'm gonna pull it out of the rod locker. He's like, what the hell is that thing? I'm like, don't worry about it. You know, pull up to a rock pile, just one after another, 4.5, just boom.
Just wailing on him.
What the? He's like, give me that goddamn thing.
Well, that makes me think of when I was talking to Moyna, and he talked about any time he had an elevation in his career, and I've said this before, but
he got on a trend.
He got on something before everyone else was on it, and I think when you talk about you're always looking for something different, and you got some weird looking stuff, like that's that hunger in you, you know, searching for that next thing. And I'm that way too, and we're wrong probably 8 times out of, but when you find that thing, it's and you have it in your hand and you're fishing and you have this confidence or this swagger to what you're doing that you know no one else is doing it.
I want
and
a lot.
You know they're going to eat it.
I won a lot of money off that thing before anybody even knew.
There's only a few things for me that have been that way.
One thing we talked about earlier, we're talking about that thing you don't talk about either.
Yeah.
So I told you like 12 years ago I started fishing with that.
Yep.
And I have won so much money on that. And still to this day, people don't know what it is, but there's a handful of people that know because I've kind of become a little careless and whatever, I'll leave it on my deck, you know, and stuff like that. But for probably the first 6-7 years, like, didn't say a word. It wouldn't come out of my boat until I was to my spot, and it would go away before I went to the landing.
Put them in your gun safe type of deal, like you kept them next to the old 12 gauge.
We got outed though.
Locked.
We got outed in a tournament. Me and my buddy.
Outed?
Yeah, we got. Well, yeah, I guess we did got outed. Yeah,
for not saying.
Well, people knew we had fishing something, but nobody could figure out what it was. And there was a guy from the road watching us. We were on a school of fish in a tournament. We were just blasting them, throwing this.
Yep.
And he had binoculars out. And he'd come to the land. I don't know what it was, but this is what it looked like. And he's telling everyone at the landing, it's like, what the hell, dude? Why would you say that? You know?
That's crazy.
Oh,
so,
my God.
I mean, that's crazy to me getting outed. The only like story I know, so the guy who taught me how to, you know, really who taught me a lot about fishing is Doug Petrock. And he moved to Kentucky to be a guide on Kentucky Lake. And he's still a guide on Kentucky Lake. Well, he joined a bass club down there. And, you know, to all of them, he's a Yankee, right? So he moved to the South, so he's a Yankee. But he moved there, so they call him a damn Yankee because he hadn't left yet type of thing. So he was this Minnesota boy, and, you know, he fished very similar to you, in fact. Just very methodical fisherman that way. And, you know, he won a tournament on black and blue jig down there with like 24, 25 pounds, a league night in like 3 hours. And then he won like a couple more. And this is the closest thing I can think of that story because they accused him of cheating. Like, they're like, you ain't from around here. We don't know what the hell you're doing, but we don't like it. You're cheating, boy. God dang it. So he took the guy out who was accusing him of cheating, showed him the spot, showed him the jig, whacked a big one. This is what I'm catching him. Like, will you keep your lynch mob off me now? Like, dang it, right? But that's crazy. Like, so you had something that, you know, we don't need to talk about. That was a dominant thing.
It still is a dominant thing.
Still is.
Yeah.
But so dominant that you guys got kicked out of Fishing League.
We didn't get kicked out, but somebody called us out on what we were using.
So?
Well, they didn't. It wasn't a bad thing. It's people always wondered, and then he said, "I think I know what it is. I seen it, and this is what it looks like." So everyone's like, "Oh my God, you know, what is it?" You know, like
And they're like, "You can't fish anymore?"
No. I didn't get like. I mean, outed, like they called us out. Like
I got you.
that's
My
what
bad.
that's what I meant.
Yep.
But yeah.
Well, I had heard like that there's people that don't like you showing up no more. Like, isn't there one league that like they don't like you showing up no more?
Well, there's a couple leagues back home where I got blacklisted, but I'm not the only one either. There's a few of us down home that got blacklisted from. There was a couple leagues that were started because there was a handful of us that would win cash every check, you know.
Gotcha.
So there's some guys that got together and created their own league, and there's another little club that, you know, I've tried getting in a few times. They won't let me in, which is fine, you know, whatever.
Yep.
I think you take it as a compliment, I guess, you know.
Big time.
But all the bigger circuits, like they invite me all the time. Hey, let's come fish, you know.
Right.
This and that. I'm like, absolutely.
Right.
Let's do this, you know. Like I got guys that throw together a 10, 15 boat tournament. We're fishing for some good money, like $1,500.
Yep.
A quick, hey, it's Friday morning. What do you guys think about tomorrow? We'll meet here. $100 a boat.
Right.
Yeah, cool. You know, and they still invite me.
I would invite you.
You know, and we
Competition makes people better.
all show up, but there's a couple that just. It is what it is, you know. And it used to kind of suck because we didn't have that many options to fish tournaments back home. But now there's every weekend there's a tournament somewhere.
Something.
And you show up and you hop in, and
Yep.
but yeah,
Have you ever seen the movie The Interview? It's with Seth Rogen and James Franco. They go to North Korea and interview Kim Jong-un.
I think I have, but I don't remember.
They have a saying in that movie. It's called, "They hate us because they ain't us." And yeah, you just made me think of that. You know, it's just jealousy, dude.
I got a lot of good friends back home that
Well, and
all the ones I want to fish, I get to fish.
That's
know?
good.
And they even like there's some places where they don't have to invite me, but they do. You know, like,
Right.
And I appreciate that.
And you know, we're not bad mouthing anyone here. It's a good compliment. At the end of the day, you've got people that want to fish maybe something less competitive. At the end of the day, I'm not one of those people, so I don't get it. But you know.
There's no like I said, it's not just me. There's been a handful of us that like just can't fish a certain league because they created their league because they're sick of seeing the same people win. You know.
I would just call that like graduating. You know,
Yeah.
it just means you like,
I
graduated.
I think
Let's move on.
I will call out Duh though if he's listening. My buddy Duh, we're great friends. Like,
Sure.
we fished a couple tournaments here together, guys. He's a blast. Even if we get our asses kicked, it's probably the funnest day I have of the year fishing and was fishing with Duh. There's a reason why we call him Duh. You can well imagine his character by his name.
Well, his name's Duh.
I
How
think-
do you get that name?
Yeah.
Is he kind
Just
of
the stupid shit he says.
gotcha?
It just
Like obvious shit where you're like, duh.
no. This
Okay, more like duh.
he's the funniest guy you'd ever meet in your
Love
life.
it.
But he started a league, and I heard that he made a rule once that I was not allowed to sub for anybody. What the hell?
That'd be the rule in my league. I mean, you either pay for the full thing and drive 2 hours every time, or
Yeah.
you don't fish, Noah Schultz.
Yeah, I heard that. I had a buddy tell me because he was looking for a sub, and they were talking about the meeting, and he made a rule that you could have any subs you want, but you can't have Noah Schultz sub for you.
That's flattering. though. That's flattering.
And I don't know if he's joking, 'cause that's just the kind of person he is, but who knows? He's good shit. He's one of my best friends. My wife calls him her spirit husband. Oh man.
Well, then you gotta throw like a Native American twist on it, like sitting duh.
That's a good one. Sitting duh. I remember we fished a tournament 2 years ago together. Yeah, it was 2 years ago. And it's called the Sons of Anarchy. No, not Sons of American Legion. I always screw up the name. It's a big tournament back home. It's 50 boats.
That's a biker bass club. That sounds like a biker bass
I
club.
probably butchered it. If I did, I'm sorry.
Guys fishing leather jackets?
I
Jesus.
think it's Sons of American Legion or something. I can't remember exactly what it's called. It used to be called the Jigabass.
Sons of Silence? I heard that's a biker gang.
It's a 50 boat tournament.
Okay.
It's a big tournament around home.
Sure.
And we started fishing together, and he's a big booze hound, loves to drink, loves
Sure.
to party, and we signed up together. And the morning of the tournament, it's like we're supposed to ease off at like 7. It's 6:30. I'm like, where the hell is Duh? You know, everyone's like, yeah, he was pretty tuned up last night. You know, I don't know. I'm like, all right. So I call him. He's like, yeah, I'm on my way. You know, I'm coming. I'm like, oh, you better hurry up. We're about to ease off, dude. You know,
Right.
pulls up with like 10 minutes to spare. What the hell you bet yourself off? I got plenty of time, you know. Well, whatever. And we get in the boat. We go to our first spot. And we get there, and I fire out there. I'm throwing a drop shot or something, you know. hook a 4-pounder and forgot the net in the truck, you know?
Oh, that's the worst.
I'm like, whatever. I'm like, we're already fishing. We'll just, you know, I hook a 4-pounder. And he's like, want me to get it? I'm like, yeah. He's fumbling around with this fish on the side of the boat. I'm like, are you still drunk, dude? What the hell are you doing? Are you going to land this fish? Oh, if you could get it closer to the boat. He's yelling at me and stuff. I'm like, dude, I'm like, what? Okay, whatever, you know. I'm just going to boat flip him from now on. Let's go to the next spot.
Drop shot boat.
I grab my jig rod.
Yep.
Go to the next spot, fire out there. And I can see one on the 360. All of a sudden, boom, thumbs, set the hook. He's like, you got it? I'm like, yeah. He's like, it's big? I'm like, yeah. He's like, I'll get it. And he bends down and get it. And I see how big this fish is. And I'm like, screw this. I boat flip it right over top of him. It was a 6.5-pounder. He's like, we are getting the fucking net. You're never doing that again. I said I couldn't trust you. You're still drunk from last night, I said.
Over the rub rail, over the 6-pounder?
6.5.
Damn.
6.5. Whew. One big bass.
That's
like,
a big bastard.
He's like, you dumb son of a bitch. What the hell were you thinking? I said, I can't trust you with it. I said, I'll take my chances with boat flipping.
Yeah.
Well, it's been a joke forever.
Forgot the net. Almost forgot duh.
Oh, my God. So after he's like, we're going to get the net. And I'm like, okay, next spot. After we fish, we'll grab the net. We ran and got the net. We netted the rest of the fish. But that was just hilarious. The guy is, you can't explain him. He's so much fun to be around.
Sure.
But, yeah.
You've known him for a while then?
Yeah, I've known him since I started fishing tournaments. I don't know, 15 years probably.
Okay.
He was always a competitor. We always
Sure.
fished against him, you know, and then over the years we just started gradually fishing with each other, and now we just started, we fished one tournament a year together, maybe 2 tournaments a year. We'll kind of, it's more of a fun thing, you know, but
Yeah.
he's good shit, good guy.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, we'll leave his real name out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If anyone listens to this, they know who does.
Yep. That's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect.
He's an awesome dude.
So, transitioning a little bit here, Ron Mayer educated me on this secret, and I want your opinion on it.
Secret.
Well, he talked about, like, in sports betting, there's some magic to having kids. Like, somebody who has a baby, like, if Tom Brady has a kid, like, you should put your money on Tom Brady that year. Or if Tiger Woods has a kid, you should put your money on Tom Brady that year, because there's a magic voodoo with people who have kids and winning big things.
Don't
Do
tell
you
my
think
wife
there's
that.
something to that?
I mean, I'm going to say no, just in case my wife listens.
I mean, I can count 3 boats and 3 kids, Noah. I'm just saying, like, 3 boats, 3 kids.
I can say a boat doesn't pay for a kid, though.
But a kid might win you a boat if you have it at the right time. So
I think kind of in a way. You want to know why I think it might? It's the added pressure.
is it pressure or is it like this overjoy?
Both,
You know, both.
Both. There's joy to having a kid, but it is very stressful too.
Well, yeah, you have another mouth to feed,
Yeah,
and those kids cost. I mean,
babies are very hard to take care of.
they are, and I heard a stat that each kid is worth $250,000, but this was like in the early 2000s, and that's if they don't play hockey. That's if they don't whatever. So it's probably with inflation like $400K a kid now.
You should see my grocery bill every week.
I can't imagine, dude.
Oh, that's bad.
Well, I think that's something that's probably the most impressive about you, in my opinion, is there's a lot of people who can't commit to the things they're committing to due to being a parent. Because fishing, it's not like hockey where you can play for an hour and you're tired. Or it's not like golf where, you play a 2-hour round of golf and, you call it good. Fishing it's 8 to 14 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Or for you, it's 2 a.m. or whatever.
I think that's part of the reason why I do. I don't want to say like really good. That's why I do okay. That's why I've had the success I've had is because I have a lot of pressure on me. And if I'm spending my money and our money and I don't cash checks, like that's not good, Like I have to cash checks. I have to win, or I can't be out there doing that because I've got a mortgage and I don't have 7 kids to feed anymore. One's pretty well moved out. The other one is going to probably move out within the next 6 months, I'd imagine, year.
Sure.
So I have 5 kids to feed and bills to pay. And if I'm out there spending $3,000 to fish this tournament,
Right.
and I shit the bed,
Right.
You know, that comes directly out of my bank account. And if I do that all year long, next thing you know, you're broke. You know? So I if I'm out there half-assing it and lollygagging, and then I'm at the bar getting drunk every day with my buddies and not on the lake practicing, like, I don't know. My wife seems pretty nice, but don't piss her off.
Right.
I
got you.
I told Figgy once.
My mom's that way.
As a joke, like, and it wasn't really a joke. We were sitting down at Pokegama once, and we were on the picnic table for a lunch break for the Champions Tour. He's like, God, what the hell? He's like, why are you so good? I'm like, if you had to go home to my wife to get the ass chewings I get after I lose, you'd be good too. I said,
Sure.
She can be a bear. When I lose, she is not happy.
Well, I got to tell you.
There's a reason for that, though. It's because money's coming directly out of our bank account, and we're betting the money that we have. And like I say this all the time, we don't come for money, you know?
Right.
So if we lose $3,000, that hurts.
Right.
You know, so.
Well, and this is not throwing shade. This is pure respect. But what year is your pickup, dude?
Oh, you'd be proud of me.
No, I
bought one.
You bought one?
Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna get into that. But like, here's what hit home for me. I was kind of down in the dumps after Gull, like, right? Like I saw it. I tasted it. I felt it. Like, and then I got to the ramp at the north end of Gull after that event, and I saw your old rusted out pickup.
Yep.
Back in a trailer down the ramp, and I saw 4 or 5 kids, playing in the boat. And
one fell in, you remember that?
I missed that part, but I've never, like, that was about an hour after the event, and I've never felt so, I guess, not relieved, but like content with where I ended up as when I saw, like, you back in that trailer down, because at that moment I realized, like, you see me, I only got to feed one mouth, right?
Yeah.
I only got to worry about one thing. This guy has how many mouths to feed? Like
7 if you count me and my wife.
Like,
well, 8 because one of our sons is still living with us, but I think he's working full time. Anyways, but yeah, I have a lot of pressure on me to.
You talk about pressure, like it hit home after that event. Like, holy shit! Like, this guy had way more on the line than I did.
Yeah.
Like, for this event, and like, this guy deserved it. Like, you deserved it, dude. And not that I ever felt like you didn't. I was in my own head about how I had fished, but I want you to know, like, that was like a really cool moment for me, was seeing you back in that trailer down at the ramp, and you got a new truck, so that's good. What'd you get?
You know what the crazy thing is? Let's rewind a little bit. That truck that you seen was an upgrade to the previous year.
That was an upgrade?
That was an upgrade.
That looked like a golden fucking gambler, bud.
That wasn't. I'm not lying. Anybody that knows me, ask them. Like, it's before that, I had a $500 Ford Expedition that I had bought, and I put a motor in it. And I got it. That's why I bought it cheap, and I put like a $400 motor in it. And I drove that thing for 8-9 years, and I was fishing the Champions Tour out of that thing for the first 3 years.
Wow.
First 3 years. And the thing had like 320,000 miles on it. And it broke down like every other tournament. I was putting coil packs in or branching on, doing something to it.
So you were working on the truck too?
Yeah.
And the boat?
Yeah.
Jesus.
The day I got to Bay Lake to practice for that tournament, on the way up, my truck broke down. But I still had 7 of the 8 cylinders, so I could still run and drive.
Yeah.
So I practiced all day, and then I found the nearest O'Reilly's, bought me. It was just a coil pack. It wasn't that big of a deal, but it was against the firewall. It was like number 8 cylinder, so it was all the way in the back. Pain in the ass to get to. I spent like an hour and a half putting that coil pack in, working on my truck, and 3 days later, the head gasket blows on my boat. So yeah, that's how I grew. I shouldn't say grow up. I don't want to knock my family or anything like that, but like my parents haven't had money, Like,
yeah.
I never grew up with money, so I've always had junk.
Sure.
But it's a testament to anybody who thinks, oh, I can't fish the Champions Tour. I don't have $30,000 in graphs. I don't have a brand new $100,000 Ranger. Bullshit. If your boat floats,
You can fish.
you can fish. Like, that's bullshit.
Well, dude, I mean, it boils down to limiting beliefs, right?
Mhm.
Limiting beliefs. Like, we set our own limitations on what can or can't be done. There's no, I mean, we set those. There's so many people who put barriers or parameters or obstacles in front of themselves. We're our own worst enemy that way. You're fishing. I mean,
I could not afford to fish Champions Tour the first year.
well,
We had like $5,000 in our savings, and it took us, I don't know how many years to save that up.
sure.
And we decided to game because the first year it was 4 main season events and then a championship, so it was $4,000 to get in, and we couldn't afford it. We didn't have $4,000. We did in case of emergency, you know.
Yep.
We put it all on the line, but
There's something to say about betting on yourself, and we were talking about it a little bit earlier in the house with, you know, your job change. When you did change jobs, was this before you fished the Champions Tour? So you quit your regular time job essentially to bet on yourself.
yeah,
And was this before you had fished the Champions Tour?
yep.
Okay.
Before I fished Champions Tour,
To me, there's a lot to be said about, like, even this story in parallels to fishing. Like, you were, I think, you managed, like, pig farms?
yeah. Anyone that doesn't know, like, I used to be a hog farmer, and that's not glamorous.
Hog farming.
Oh,
You've always been farming hogs.
yeah. Just which ones? No, it was a horrible career path I chose, and I didn't choose it because I wanted to do it. I chose it out of necessity because maybe we'll get into this in a different time, but I didn't. I kind of had a rough childhood, not because of the way my parents raised me. Got
Sure.
great parents, because I was a little shithead, you know.
Yeah.
I was always getting in trouble.
It happens.
So I had a rough childhood, and which led me into a bad job.
Yep.
It's just a bad, low-paying job, but then I grew up and realized, like, I got to grow up. I got to be a good person, you know. And and then I have good work ethic.
Yep.
Even when I was getting in trouble, not being a very good person,
You worked hard.
socially. Yeah, I worked hard. So I started just as an entry level. I started full time when I was 16.
Yep.
I actually moved out of my parents' house when I was 16. So
No shit.
yeah,
Wow.
there's a lot of backstory to me
Yeah,
that
nope.
nobody knows.
Yep. Yep.
Probably should cut that too, actually.
I mean, I don't know, dude. To me, this makes you human.
Yeah.
Like, it makes you who you are, and if anything, I think more people can relate with that than
Yeah.
you think. Like,
So all I had was my work ethic, and I finally grew up when I was about 18. I quit messing around.
Yep.
I still hung out. I still partied with all my buddies and all that stuff, you know.
it's a pretty good age to grow up, though. A lot of people don't grow up. I mean, I'm still growing up, dude. So,
But so I was working, you know, full time, and I started as just a regular general labor worker, and, you know, being that young and not having any education, you don't have many job opportunities, you know.
Right.
So I took
Right.
what I could get. And
Yep.
that's what I did. I was a hog farmer and worked in the industry for 19 years, I think. Long story short, I worked my way up from just regular technician to a department lead to assistant manager to manager. And they actually offered me a supervisor position, which that required me. And by the time I got offered a supervisor position, I was already, you know, 1 or 2 kids deep
sure.
in
Sure.
my relationship with my wife. And
So that pressure was real, and, like, in that job, paying for, like, that was.
but I couldn't. That supervisor job required me to be gone, like, a week at a time.
I got
So
you.
I'd come home for the weekends, and I'd be traveling during the week. Come home, so that wouldn't fly, you know.
Right.
So I stayed as a manager where I was. I had like 14 employees underneath me, and if you can imagine, not knocking anybody that works on a hog farm, because I know some fishermen that work on hog farms,
I mean, without hog farms, we wouldn't have pulled pork.
but the industry, the commercial side of hog farming, which what I was in, you know, people think hog farmers think of mom and pa raising pigs on a farm. I'm talking commercial,
Talking
where you have 3,000 head in a site.
a lot of pigs.
That's just the south. Like and then the
My gosh.
we produce like 100,000 pigs a year.
Holy
So
smokes.
it was the commercial side of it,
Yep. Yep.
and the quality of people that worked there wasn't very good. So we had high turnover, very
High
high
turn.
turnover,
Yep.
high stress job. I didn't have an assistant manager. I didn't have any department leads underneath me that were there to support me because we could not keep anybody in the doors. Yeah, long story short, I couldn't handle the stress. I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I was only getting paid for 40. So I
Yep.
was salaried.
Yeah.
Could never take any time off to go fishing because I had to work all the time because
Yep.
I didn't have any people there to work. And I just hit a breaking point. And I this one day knee-jerk reaction, got pissed, and I put my notice in and I quit. So I'm like, And we had a little bit of savings saved up, and I'm like, okay, what the hell? Because I was making decent money, you know. That's how we bought our house.
Right.
We got used to that lifestyle off of that income. How am I going to find a job with no education that's going to compensate me what I was making at this job, you know?
Right. Right.
And we didn't have nice things. It's not like we were rich, but
you'd just gotten to that level where we bought a house.
Yes.
We're operating at a level. You had a level of repetition, but it wasn't fulfilling you. There was something missing, and you were dying slowly.
You know, the crazy thing, it was always in the back of my mind that's how much fishing consumes me. It was always in the back of my mind, and it's like it was a constant thought and a constant drive in me is how can I quit my job or find a job or do something where I can make money but yet fish whenever I want, however I want. What kind of business can I start that I can fish whenever I want? I was like, God, lawn mowing business, that'd be good. And I'm like, well, then you're mowing lawns all freaking summer and you can't fish, you know?
Right.
Like, what? Construction, nope, because then you're working all summer long. Like, what can I do? I was always racking my brain. What could I do to start my own business and fish on my terms, you know? And anyways, so I quit my job, and me and my wife are kind of in scramble mode because reality is setting in. Like, shit, we have a mortgage to pay, we have kids to feed,
right?
Money's running out. What are we gonna do? You know. So I applied a few jobs, and I had some opportunities, like decent paying jobs back then. You know, this was 6 years ago, $20 an hour, which now is like damn near minimum wage. It seems like, you know.
I mean,
back then
it depends where you live. I think from that standpoint, cost of living, you know, depends where you live. But anyway.
But back then I was like, okay, but I don't think we can quite make our bills on all, that. But I got to start somewhere, so I'll take these. I had two job opportunities, and I was actually going to take one job working for the state. And my wife wanted to do like a little T-shirt business on the side to kind of make some side income and make clothing for the kids, to save money that way or whatever. And buy me this machine. It makes stencils and it makes decals and blah 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 whatever. I'm like, okay, whatever. Well, so I spent $200 on this machine, and then
like a cutting, like
you can take like vinyl and it cuts like a. You can cut a stencil out, or you can cut like
that kind of thing.
Yeah, but not like that would be a CNC.
Yeah, that'd be
but same concept for like stickers or a vinyl decal.
Yep.
Or,
Intune had a decal guy who would make our reg
like
decals
this.
that way. Oh yeah.
This. This would be a pressed on vinyl
print
or something like that.
Yep. Okay.
So she made some shirts like that. She was farting around with that. She's like, "Oh, you want to make a couple signs for the house?" I'm like, "What do you mean signs? Like all these farmhouse signs?" Like, these things are stupid,
Okay.
Whatever. Just trying to please the wife, It's like when you get married, that's
a real thing.
That's 90% of your job. Just keep your wife happy.
I haven't been married, but I've had a girlfriend, and gotta do stuff.
All right, fine. So I go in the garage. I look around. Okay, here's a spare piece of lumber. It's like a 1x8. It's like 20 inches long. I stain it up and create the stencil off this machine that she wanted me to buy, and I put it on here and I painted it up. I took it off. I'm like, holy shit, this looks pretty nice.
Looks cool.
It's like something you buy in the store.
Sure.
Oh, what the hell? I put it on eBay that night before I went to bed. I wake up and it's sold overnight for $40.
Honey has sold the sign.
Oh, she was kind of pissed at first. She said, "You sold that sign?" I'm like, well, let's try it again, So I made a couple more.
Yep.
And a couple more days go by, one or two more sells. I'm like, so right now my wheels are turning, and I already have a job offer.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, I have like a week to decide on this job. Things are happening really fast, but I think I have a little sliver of hope here. Let's see what happens. So I create like 5 or 6 signs one day, and I take pictures and I put them all up on eBay, and I put quantity of like 100 on each of them.
Yep.
I'm doing the math in my head, just like dreaming, like, how many signs a day would I have to make to live to make an income, And,
well, and at this point, you're in between jobs. Yeah. It's kind of tough times in the Schultz household. Right?
Stressful.
Yeah.
Stressful. So
you're out woodworking.
Yeah. So I go to bed that night, and I remember it's like 10 o'clock at night, and I hear cha-ching on my phone. I'm like, no way.
Is that the eBay sound it makes?
Cha-ching, yep.
Really?
So
dude, that's cool.
I go check.
Oh, got him.
I go check, and it's like, it's like $35. I'm like, sweet.
Sick.
I lay it back down like 15 minutes later. Cha-ching. I'm like, no fucking way is this happening, But I can't sleep now, you know, 'cause I'm thinking all like what ifs, the what ifs. Like,
Yeah.
keep in mind, I hate farmhouse signs. I think they're the dumbest thing ever. I don't know if you guys know what farmhouse signs are, but
James Chapman got me one for housewarming gift, the one you saw. in
Yeah?
there. Yeah. I need to rehang it, but
so like they're the dumbest things ever. They'd say like the women like they had the sign in their kitchen that says eat and it says kitchen. It's like, well, no shit. You're in a kitchen. You don't need to have a sign that says kitchen. You know.
eat, pray,
You know, someone says
love.
home. Yes, this is a home. But anyway, so I'm like this.
Duh.
Yeah. So I go to bed
Yeah.
and I wake up and like 6 or 7 of them or something like that sell overnight for a couple $100. I'm like, sweet. Okay, so
We're
the
dock fishing today, baby.
bulb's
Let's
going
go.
on.
Yep.
All right, this is just a numbers thing.
Yep.
How many more designs can I make to get more out there? So then I create more designs. I open an Etsy shop. Well, I shouldn't say me. Me and the wife are kind of doing all this, you know.
Yep.
She's the thinker.
Yep.
I'm the doer.
Got it.
I'm the bitch.
You definitely. Well,
She's the worker, or she's the thinker. So she's thinking of all these ideas to do and create. So then I'm putting the ideas to wood, pretty much, you know,
Sure.
creating these things. And sales are starting to come in. We're like day 4, day 5, and it's like next thing we're shipping like 5, 6, 7 times a day consistently. It's like a couple $100 a day. So I'm like, I'm taking a chance on this. I said, I'm not taking that job. We're going to see what happens with this.
this is the government job
Yep.
that you. Okay.
Great benefits.
Sure.
Pay wasn't like phenomenal, but it's good pay, phenomenal
Well,
benefits.
healthcare, I mean,
yeah,
like with
pension, everything.
big-
I'm like,
Yeah.
We're
Government
gonna
gigs have good bennies.
we're gonna roll the dice and we're gonna see what happens because I've been wanting to work for myself for my entire life. You know,
Yep.
I didn't have farmhouse signs in mind. Like it wasn't my passion to make farmhouse signs. Neither was hog farming. You know,
Well,
can't stand either one of them. But if I can live on my own terms,
you work for you.
yes. So then we open an Etsy shop, and we're like 6, 7 days in, and I decided to apply to sell on Amazon. And in the meantime, waiting to hear back from Amazon. So it's like a 2-week window to get on Amazon. Like, and anybody that
Gotcha.
doesn't know, Amazon, everyone just thinks Amazon sells you these products. Amazon is made up of people like me.
Right. Attention, all smallmouth anglers. Have you thrown the marabou jig? Have you thrown the hair jig? Well, if you have, you're going to want to listen right now. This podcast is brought to you by Veselka Fishing and Customs, a custom rod shop based out of Minnesota, and he has developed the answer, folks. What if I told you you could throw that marabou jig 30 to 50% further than you're casting it right now? Well, Dane, Mr. Veselka himself, has developed the answer. It's a custom 8-foot hair jig rod developed on a steelhead fly blank. He's put custom fly guides on this, so you're really going to be able to outcast the competition, catch more smallmouth. They aren't going to see you. What more do you need? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. This is the 8-foot hair jig rod, but this guy can build you anything you want. If you can dream it, he can do it. This episode is brought to you by just north of Memphis BBQ. This is World Champion Barbecue. If you smoke meat and you don't like good barbecue, I do not know what to tell you right now besides you need to try some of this stuff. They've got their rub. They've got their sauces right on their website. They've got their famous dry rub award-winning seasoning that you could put on ribs, brisket, pulled pork, chicken, wings, anything you like to put on the smoker, on the oven, on the grill, any meat you like to cook, you need some of this dry rub seasoning in your life. But don't forget the sauce, because that's award-winning world champion sauce here. No matter what flavor you like, they've got 3 different sauces, and they are all good. You can drink them straight out the bottle. We've got Sweet Christie's for all you sweet-loving barbecue folk. We've got Christie's Mischief for all you spicy bass anglers out there. And then we've got Christie's Gold. And they'll sell all 3 of them in a combo. But you need to go to their website right now. It's JNO Memphis.com. That's JNO Memphis.com. Dry rub, sauce, barbecue. Let's go!
Third-party sellers.
Yep.
Amazon owns very little actual inventory.
They're a middleman.
They are just a platform.
Yep.
They own some, But
more and more, I think, right?
Yeah. They're starting to get rid of the smaller sellers.
Sure.
To control the quality of product being sold.
Yep.
But anyways, apply to be on Amazon. They say yes, and they have this handmade section, which we would qualify for because this is handmade stuff. It's not mass produced and they had like guidelines, like you couldn't have more than 7 employees, you couldn't produce X amount of units per day, like yada yada yada, whatever.
Yep. And
we fell into that criteria.
Yep.
So then I started putting these things on Amazon, and this is no shit. And like the first 24 hours sold 1, and then it's like after that, it's like the floodgates open, and it's in the first year we sold well over 6 figures.
Wow.
Yeah. Of signs, wooden signs.
How relieving is that, though? Like, you talk about the fear that comes from. That was like your first time doing that, too. Yeah. It was like, okay, most people think, okay, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to get a nice, cushy job. I'm going to hate my life for about, 55 years. And then, it's going to be fine after that. I mean, to leave that comfort of security
that was hard
with a job to bet on yourself.
That was hard. And
for you not knowing how you were going to bet on yourself, I'm done doing this. And people get that way. And sounds like you had, an opportunity to work for the Gestapo. And, but what that did for you mentally as a fisherman, to me,
that was a turning point.
Like, that's my little connection with that is
that was a turning point of everything after that is history.
Right.
That it cleared up my mental space too, because I used to fish the Denny's while I was working in the hog industry.
Okay.
And I'd have a work phone on me, and that thing would ring with issues all the time, and supervisors and employees having problems, this, and this. So I was never mentally clear and able to focus on the fishing because I was always so stressed out of what was going on at my job and what would be there waiting for me when I came back.
Yep. There's a weight with you.
So it's like I was on call 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, no matter if I was on vacation or not. Like it was a really, really bad job.
It's almost like changing life to your terms.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Like when you work for somebody, your life is on their terms. Mm-hmm. X amount of days, X amount of hours a week by contract. And like that sign epiphany you had, I mean, that prepared you for the last 2 hours of a Champions Tour event, probably better than you could ever thought. Because
being willing to keep an open mind and change on a dime.
Yeah. That is 100% what you did with your job.
I seen an opportunity and
you capitalized.
Yes.
Yep. Painted as many signs as you could.
Yeah. The wife and I were talking about the other day. So it only lasted about 2 years, and then COVID hit.
Sure.
And everyone knows lumber prices skyrocketed. And it's not just that. There was other things that were going on, too. This farmhouse thing was a trend. It was a huge trend. Well, if you know anything about consumer products, Chinese, they knock off everything.
Right.
And sell it at a third of the price. So that started to creep in, too.
Okay, so you had overseas companies starting to like, hey, this guy's painting barn signs, and he's selling a lot of them.
Well, Hobby Lobby started to take them on too.
No shit.
So you started to see these mass-produced signs that looked. I'm not saying they're copying us.
Fuck Hobby Lobby.
But they're copying the trend.
Yeah.
Which we were copying too.
For sure.
And they could make it they could sell the same sign that we would sell for $60 for $20.
I got you. Yep.
We still had a small portion of the market because people still wanted it handmade. Instead of buying this particle board thing, ours were made out of real wood.
Yep.
Like they weighed like 5 pounds. Like they were nice quality. I handmade the trim. Yep. We got to the point towards the end we had everything so dialed in. We were so good at it. I felt like they were like I said again, I never have no dream in my life to make signs, but they were very good signs.
Beautiful.
Very good.
You were the Picasso of those signs.
I guess, right?
But the weather changed. To your point.
Yeah.
Like the signs, all of a sudden, everyone started throwing the jigworm.
Yes.
All of a sudden, you had this guy, like, everyone was throwing the jigworm. Mm-hmm. So, or, all of a sudden the sun came out, or it was cloudy, or what have you. So you had to pivot, or you had to make an adjustment.
Yeah.
Right? So how was that? So you had your first obstacle of, oh, shit, I'm betting on myself. Oh, shit, how's this going to go? Okay, I got something figured out. Okay. And then, oh shit, the Chinese have it figured out. We're fucked.
Yep.
Like,
That's crazy. That's exactly how it went down. It was like in my mind there was three things that crumbled that business, and then we're not doing that business anymore. That business failed. I shouldn't say failed, but we stepped away from it.
Sure.
Because
it was too flooded with competition.
The amount. So so we had COVID, which raised lumber prices. We were buying a piece of wood, so a 1x8. Yep. When we first started this business, we were paying like $4.26 for it, and by the end we were paying like $17.50 for the same piece of wood.
That's over 3 times as much.
Yeah, so it cut into our profits huge. And then the cardboard boxes went up, so the shipping supplies went up.
Yep.
The cost of postage went up, which is typical, And then we had to drop our prices because the market's being flooded with other sellers.
It was the perfect storm.
Like, whoop. Yep. Now I'm starting to think like as a business person, like looking at how much I'm working, because we're still selling, you know. Right. We're still doing volume, but our costs are going up and our revenue is going down because we're dropping our sales price.
Sure.
So it's like I'm doing the math. I'm like, I'm making like $15 an hour. What am I doing?
Right.
This doesn't make sense. When I first started, we were making good money, I'm like, this doesn't make sense anymore. And so I started looking at other things like, okay, we have this Amazon platform, we have this eBay platform, and eBay's easy to get on. Anybody can sell on eBay, but Amazon, you have to be not chosen, but you have to be approved to sell on Amazon. Nobody can sell on Amazon. Like they have
like Gandalf at the gate, like
you
shall not pass.
It took us 2 weeks to get in. Like they are sticklers on Amazon.
Gotcha.
But that's why Amazon is what Amazon is, because
they have those standards.
They have a very high standard, and if you do not meet that standard, then you do not sell on Amazon. They don't give you second chances. Like you screw up once and you're gone. But anyways, so as I'm making signs down here in my office, I'm making all these signs and all these things. Like I have TVs going and YouTube going and stuff like that. I'm just trying to think, what can I do to pivot away from this? So now I'm starting to fall back into the same thing that I got away from, is I'm almost trapped here. I can't go away because I have to hit this certain dollar amount every month.
I have to make these signs, but I'm not making as much on them.
Yep. So now
I have to make more of them, and it costs more to make them.
So now I'm right back to where I was working 60, 70 hours a week. I'm like, this is stupid. So I'm like, so it came to a point in time, and we started to dabble in selling actual consumer products. Products that other companies were making that we weren't making, like headphones, cell phone covers, freaking
all kinds of trinkets,
anything, like there you got 3 headphones lined up in a row right there. Like perfect example. We'd buy 50 of them,
50 of these,
and then we'd buy our 50 sound machines for babies. Like we would just buy bulk items from liquidators of Target, Walmart, Sam's Club, Best Buy, any of these big box stores that either would take stuff off of their shelves because they were bringing stuff in for new inventory in, or we would buy customer returns off of liquidators. We started doing stuff like that. We would buy pallets of inventory at a time from these liquidation companies, and we started to dabble in that. And it was like another eye opener, another change of the weather. It's like, okay, this is way easier.
Right.
There is no work but just to go through this inventory and list it and test it, make sure it works.
Right.
So
this lure is getting hung up 1 out of 10 casts versus that lure is getting hung up 5 out of 10 casts.
And this is like a 6-month transition here where I kept telling the wife, like I'm showing her the numbers, like, hey, this is what the sign business is doing. This is what we can do. We're dabbling in this liquidation side here. We gave this a 1-week goal. This is what we made. This is what we made in 1 week in signs. Like the writing's on the wall. Like this is going away. Why try to force this?
Why
try to force the dock bite when it's going away? Like this is the deal.
Well, and you kind of learned from the hog to Amazon transition where like you still made signs and slowly transitioned into the other stuff versus putting yourself in a starving situation.
Exactly. I learned.
Dude, you're a problem solver. You're a thinker, and you putting like that past you talk about where you were maybe a shit or you weren't as good a kid as you would want one of your kids to be.
I'd kill my kids if they ever listen to this. If you were me, we're gonna have a.
But here's the deal, though. Like, you are you because you're you. And there's something to be said about you making those mistakes early on that allowed you to not make them again versus somebody who never made those mistakes.
Yep.
Right? So I wouldn't look at it with such bad light. I would look at, I mean, to me, there's something positive to be taken out of that.
It's not bad light. It's more of, I don't know. I just don't want people to know that side of me.
Your conscience.
That makes sense.
I get that. You know? Yeah. And we don't need to get into that. I mean, I got to pee, but I got some questions for you when we get back.
All right.
All right. We're back from our piss. And so with this whole kids thing,
Where were we?
Leitner was telling me that he thinks it's good luck to have sex before an event. And I'm like... I've always like blue balled it, you know. I'm like, no way. I'm keeping all the testosterone I can going into this event. But I'm like, when I look at a guy like you, are you like Leitner? But we're gonna take it a step further, and we're gonna conceive before each event. Like it's one thing to have sex, but like the other thing is to conceive. Like, is that your thing? Is we're gonna conceive, or when is your vasectomy scheduled? Or
well, actually, you know. Like she's not to take anything away from my kids, but she's always the one that wanted the big family. You know?
I got you. Yep.
And I guess it didn't matter to me either way, but now that I have them, obviously I love them. But
for sure,
I always told her, like, we can never have kids during the summer. So if you want to have kids, we have to figure this out so you have them like around Christmas.
Sure.
So all of our kids, with the exception of the last one, were around that November, December month period.
Yeah. So
no,
we do conceive before an event.
Not before an event. I'll just say this.
2 weeks before.
The wife and I have a saying, and that's all I'm going to say.
Hey, all the respect in the world to your wife, and I hope that was a compliment.
We have a saying before every
event.
Compliment, and that's all I'm going to say.
That's perfect.
I'll tell you off, Mike.
No, dude, you're fine. That's wonderful.
She's good shit. Like she's like one of the guys, you know.
Oh, for sure.
Like you can just BS with her, and she swears more than Matt Thompson does.
I respect that.
She swears like God. She's just like, but she doesn't drink. She will not touch a beer. She won't. But she, like I said, she's also a bear. Like if I lose, she would make a very good supervisor.
Yeah. Well, I mean, at the end of the day, she lets you do a lot of the things you want to do. So,
yep.
I guess,
that's kind of,
if she wants more kids, like you can give her what she wants.
Wow, we're done.
You get to fish. Done. You getting a vasectomy?
I should, but no.
Should we announce like a GoFundMe page right now for Noah's vasectomy?
We should.
We're gonna start a fundraiser.
I just want, like, I'm getting old. Like, I'm getting tired. Like,
yeah, dude, we gotta tie your tubes.
Oh man, like these kids they take every ounce of energy out of you. And it's like if I keep thinking like, not of right now having a kid, but I'm thinking like in 10 years, how much fun am I going to be for my youngest daughter when I'm 50? Like I'm already tired.
Yeah.
My back is shot. I'm tired. It's hard getting off the couch. Like.
Yeah.
So I think of stuff like that, and I want to.
She's gonna be a tough daughter. Let her just fend for herself.
Oh,
she'll figure it out.
They're all good kids.
That's awesome, dude.
But no, it's. She had a lifestyle that she wanted. I had a lifestyle that I wanted. This is the happy medium. I give her the lifestyle she wants. She lets me pursue the lifestyle that I want.
Right.
But the opens is kind of a little hiccup.
I was going to ask you about that because the opens just got harder, right? Like they got harder from a competition standpoint.
But
everybody fishing is there to make the elites.
I think there should be like a little asterisk put there. I think it would be easier to qualify though.
You think so?
I think so.
You don't have the local factor as much.
No, you take all the local factor out of it.
But you have...
They're there fishing because they can hop in.
Right. 220?
But their points don't matter.
220 guys? 184?
185, I think.
185.
They have full fields at every event because they're allowing locals to jump in.
I got you. So they didn't fill. They didn't fill then.
They got like 185, which is still a lot.
What were they going to fill at?
225, 250.
225 and only have, 9 qualify?
Yes, but I think it would be easier because you take the divisions.
Yeah.
And they're like the Ross Barnett and what was it? Ross Barnett, Red River, and Sam Rayburn. Those are all within, 5 hours of each other?
Yeah.
They're locals.
Yeah.
So there's a local there. They're going to jump into that division.
No, you're right. We got our ass kicked at Hartwell by locals.
So in my mind, I think it would be easier to qualify for the elites fishing all 9 because you take that home field advantage away. Yeah, he might have a home field advantage down in Texas.
Right.
But when he goes to the East Coast to fish Oneida,
Yeah.
It's
a good point. I mean, Keith Tuma just got 25th or whatever in the Open. He had a horrible first day, but one good day of fishing, he needs
22 pounds second day?
Yeah.
I was watching.
Yeah.
I think it'll be easier just fishing a one division where it's very localized to a certain area. That's my opinion. That could be wrong, but
well, I think the whole state of Minnesota agrees with me when we say this, but what's your plan? I mean, because there's big things for you. You've proven it at this level, and there's no reason you can't go prove it at that next level. Is there a plan in your head as far as like how this goes for you?
Yeah, there's a plan. So, last year I dabbled. I wouldn't say I got my teeth kicked in on the first one, but I knew statistically I didn't have much of a chance. I had a chance, but not enough of a chance for me to justify spending another $10,000 to fish the last 2.
Sure.
Again, once again, take it away from my family. That's how I look at it. Every decision I make, I got to think about not just myself. I got to think about the kids and my wife and bills at home and all that good stuff.
Right.
So
right.
This last year, I was gung ho. I'm fishing all 9.
We're doing this.
I'm gonna fish all 9. I'm gonna ask for some help from some sponsors and
Yep.
put some feelers out there. So if I can't find some new sponsors to try to help pay for some of this, and
Yep.
but you have a family, you're married, it's not just as easy. How many kids in school?
Right.
You're taking kids out of school. It's like,
yeah.
So my wife and I came to a somewhat of a compromise. I kind of put my foot down. We'll see. Unless I don't know if I should go on the record saying this, but we bought a camper this last year. We bought a camper.
I mean, it's on Facebook. You can say you bought a camper.
I mean, I was talking about why I don't should say this, but I want to say that I'm very, very confident I'll be fishing all 9 opens next year.
Sure.
Unless I have a very bad season this year.
Sure.
If I have a really bad season and I'm not cashing checks, or I just have an off season financially, then I cannot do the opens.
Sure.
I don't have. My wallet is it's a pretty small wallet. We'll just say that.
Well, I mean, dude, to do something like that.
Yeah.
I mean,
even if I went by myself and I traveled with Brad and Adam Rasmussen,
Yep.
which, if I went alone, that's probably what I would probably lean on them. Say, hey, can I kind of travel with you guys?
Right.
Would help split up the cost, but you're still talking $25,000-$30,000 if you're a minimalist.
Totally.
Yep. And it's not just that. Two people don't think about. They just think the dollar amount, the cost of actually doing it. And if you work a job, great, you have paid vacation. You can take time off if you have that much vacation. But in my case, I don't. So if I take 9-10 weeks off of work, that's 2.5 to 3 months with no pay.
Right.
That's more of a cost than the tournaments themselves. And that's how I look at it too. It's like, how can I make my bills when I'm on the road?
The spreadsheet has to make a little sense, and it's hard. Okay, but you have to do that. You have to have some irrationality, in my opinion. There is no fishing the opens and making the Elite Series. There is no way to justify that on a spreadsheet, in my opinion. There's no way to justify doing that on a spreadsheet. Especially 4 years, probably. You got to plan for a little bit of learning and a little bit of tuition, a little bit of failure, a little bit of all of it. You can't just plan to take top 9 out of 185 guys who all plan to take top 9.
That's the thing, though.
First year,
I feel like I would have 1 year in me, and that'd be it.
See, and that's I think if anyone could do it in a year, I do think it's you. But
there's such a learning curve.
I was gonna say, you don't get a lot of practice. It's far away. It's different terrain.
You
it's
get 5
different
days.
forage.
You get 5 days.
You do. Okay.
So that's, to me, Ross Barnett.
5 days, I mean.
I took 8 days, but that was travel time too.
Yep.
So I had 4 4 days or 5, 4 or 5 days of practice and like 3 days of travel, or 4 days of travel, 4 days of travel, 5 days of practice. So nine, so call it 9 days. So that's about that's what I would do for by the book. That's what I would fish all 5 days of practice. And
Right.
Champions Tour, I put 4 days in. You know, this year I might do a little bit more since we have a camper. It'll be cheaper.
You got camper, yeah.
What
Fuck
the
it.
hell?
Yeah.
You know, like a campsite costs like $25 a night now. So
Right. To me, there's a balance between too little and too much of practice, and I'm like 2 to 5 days, and sometimes 5 days is too many, and sometimes 2 days is too few, and usually 3 or 4, 2 to 4 is probably perfect for me.
So I can see what you're saying. I can see how the whole too much practice thing could mess with a guy, because then you get very set in your way. But also, on the other side of it, I almost feel like every hour extra you can have on the water is just another hour where you can understand a different scenario. Or
I agree with that.
even a spot, you just come across a dumb little area, and it's just loaded, and it's a nothing spot, and they just happen to still be there in the tournament. Like, just stuff like that. So I feel like if you don't let it hurt you, it can help you. But if you get very stuck in your ways, like, what do you think? Do you think, like, as far as practice goes to tournament day, does it always unfold how you expect it to?
No. And to me,
The days it does, you win.
you win.
And you knock it out of the park.
Yes.
And you knew you were going to do it.
Yes.
But
Yes.
that's not very often.
No, it isn't. And in fact, I've learned the hard way, just going into an event and just being hard-headed about something that was working really good. But to me, I'd rather have a bunch of information that I've gathered that allows me to keep an open mind, right? Like Fighter and Leitner talk about how they just go willy-nilly into these, like a Ross Barnett or like Gunnersville, and I'm like, I'm not there yet. Maybe I'm just not good enough, but
I
for
got to
me,
see the lake.
I need to see it, and I will look at it, and I will spend weeks looking at it. And I won't pigeonhole myself on, like, this is what it is, but I will look at the lake so that I understand
So what do you mean
every
by,
nuance
do you mean
of the lake.
You mean look at the map or look at the actual lake when you're on it?
Both.
So
I'm talking map, I'm talking earth, I'm talking lake, I want to know and this is, I've had a lot of success this way, is if you understand how a lake lays out and you understand all of the features on a lake and the terrain and the geography of what you're fishing, for me, that allows me to make those gut decisions better. And it's not the same way for everybody. I've also pigeonholed myself, but that to me is more practicing. That's more so like me. I caught him on a crankbait on Vermilion so freaking good that like I couldn't keep it out of my hand. And
see, I feel like I can pigeonhole myself at home in the garage with a beer in my hand doing too much research.
And see, that's what Leitner and Fighter would say is, it gives them too many preconceived notions going into it.
I almost got away from all that. Like, I won't, like,
There's something to be said about that.
I'll sit in my boat and look at my map. I'll sit on my boat, I'll grab a couple beers, and I'll have the kids crawling all over in the boat, and I'll fire up a Humminbird, and I'll look at my Lake Master. I'll do that, but I don't look at tournament results. I don't watch many videos because I don't want to get too pigeonholed. I used to, but I've learned over time it doesn't work for me.
I think I'm in the middle of that process. So I'll give you an example. Hartwell, I had basically from Big Stone to December, we qualified for nationals. I was on Hartwell daily. That water fluctuates. So I was looking at that lake at a lower water level, and I was really analyzing that lake. And we had lost the previous time down there to largemouth spotted bass fishing, and it was like we were fishing a different tournament than the top 3 guys. So I was so mad about 2019 that I'm like, I'm going to figure out these largemouth, and I get a little stir crazy, so I'm going to look at maps and I'm going to understand this terrain. Well, we got to Hartwell, and it was like, this largemouth deal, yes. So I don't know if it was my pre-research or practice, but the conditions completely changed tournament day, and we didn't necessarily change with them. However, there's 220 boats, and only 3 guys keep fishing, and we had 10 pounds the first day, and however many pounds of spots was leading, 17 or something. So, yeah, we need a big bag, so we're going to keep on this greenfish program.
Yeah.
But it's funny because I'd done all this research going into Hartwell, and the second day of the event, I didn't catch a bass. And I was so down on myself. All we could get him on was a drop. It was slick calm. It was the worst conditions you could have for fishing. We had a fog delay that killed the morning blueback herring window that those fish kind of revolve around. So I was so mad. I was like, God, I suck at fishing. What is wrong with me? So I stop at Chickamauga on the way home, on the drive home. I'm just, 26-hour, 18-hour drive or whatever. You're just fucking
God.
This is the last cast I got to make at a bass. I didn't catch one all day. It was just in my head oh, you suck. And
You want to put the wife on the podcast?
yeah, let's get her on. Make sure everything's cool.
Say hi, guys.
Oh my gosh, we got the Schultz family on the podcast today, folks.
Can you hear everybody? Hi, guys.
Hi.
Say hi. You're on the podcast.
Hi.
Talking to the microphone.
Hi. Hi, Daddy.
Hi, guys.
That's awesome.
What are you doing? Hi, Mina. What's up, Millie? Am I coming home?
He's not coming home.
We got a few more beers yet, then we'll be home. I'm kidding. I don't know. It's gonna be a while yet.
Jenna, you don't want to... Hey, could you put your mother on, please? I'm just kidding.
She doesn't have her hair done or anything, I'm sure.
This... Hello. You guys are officially on the podcast. Congratulations, Schultz family.
Okay, guys. Dad's gonna go, okay? Bye, guys. We'll see you in a little while. Bye, Mina. Love you too. Oh, thanks for the kisses, honey. Bye.
That's awesome. You don't answer during a Champs Tour event, do you?
No. I don't even answer much in practice, actually.
Dude, that's such a good family.
Yeah, they're good kids. But that's the part that's hard too. Just me coming here. It's I've been home all winter long.
Right.
Every single day I'm home, taking the kids to school, picking them up, doing all the dad thing, and then I finally leave for the first time in I don't know how many months. And oh my God,
They miss you already.
the daughter, the oldest daughter, she does not like that.
No.
Mm-mm.
Well, you're the head of household. You and Jenna. So are you bad cop around the house?
If I
She's
have-
good cop.
She's always bad cop.
Okay.
This all day, every day.
So you're
just
their
kidding.
favorite guy. They miss you. They're like, this is a
I-
war zone since you left.
I'm I don't know,
This house is a fucking prison.
I'm the bad cop, and if they're naughty, yeah, I'll put the hammer down. But otherwise, if I sit on the couch, it's oof, here they all come.
I got you.
One kid on this knee, one kid on this knee, one kid on this arm.
Holy
It's
smokes.
trying to drink a beer, I'm like,
Hey, we got you a break.
yeah.
Yeah.
So,
We
no,
got you.
that's what I like. I enjoy it,
Yeah. Yeah.
So, no, it's cool. What were we saying though before that?
Oh, I was jabbering about Hartwell. So I was super pissed, right? I suck at bass fishing. And Dane and Nipper and Dirk we were staying at Dane's dad's house in St. Louis on the way home. And I'm like, fuck it. I'm so mad. We were just gonna drive straight to St. Louis, sleep, drive straight home. I was like, I didn't even tell him. I was just so mad. I drove straight to the landing at Chickamauga.
Oh,
And I'm like, I only got 3 hours. I don't care. I don't care if I only catch one. I'm going to stab a bass so hard in the face that it's I'm going to set the hook so hard on these fish. And I went to Chickamauga just barebacking it, blind. Never fished Chickamauga in my life. I fish one spot, nothing. I'm like, shit, I'm going to go out to that main creek channel. There's a bluff wall. It's fall. The shatter probably moving in. And I peeled on them, dude.
Oh.
And it was just, I think about if I would have quit and drove straight to St. Louis that day and where my mental state would have been after that tough event. And there's something to be said about those preconceived notions. And like, I don't have many regrets on Hartwell because I do feel like all the locals won and everything just didn't work out for anybody else's favor going into that event. However, it's amazing what a horrible event will do to your confidence, and like,
it can destroy you mentally.
it can, but there's a resilience to tournament fishing that is needed because it's a losing sport, unless you're Noah Schultz.
I still lose more than I win.
Well, bingo, and KVD wins whatever.
What's the stat? Something crazy.
1.6% of the time.
Yeah, it's like
The greatest angler in the world wins 1.6% of the time. And NASCAR is probably the only other thing I can think of that's maybe similar
it's
to
the
that.
most losing sport there is.
Yep. So that resilience or that mental toughness that you've gained from, having kids at a younger age, having,
It's all part of it.
It's all part of it. And dealing with adversity, dealing with mental just barriers or hurdles or adversity, and overcoming it makes you a better fisherman.
And I think, like I said, it's all part of everything. So like, for me, I'm usually the first one at the ramp every morning. For me, I'm up at 4 o'clock.
That's important. to you?
3:30 to 4. I have to be, because I think that goes back to work ethic.
Yep.
I had to be the first person at work because I was the boss,
Yep.
and then I had to be there at 4 o'clock in the morning. I did that for 10 years.
Mentally, that's your thing.
Yeah, that's my mindset. Is if I'm not the first one there and one of the last ones to leave, I didn't do my job for that day of practice.
I got you.
Like if I get there late, if I get there at 7 o'clock and the sun's been up for an hour and a half, and I leave at 4 in the afternoon, I just lost 5 hours of practice.
I agree with that.
And you do that times 4 days, that's a day and a half of practice. That's
I agree with that.
That's why I so like, and this is really, really, really hard on me and hard on my body, and it's probably not very healthy, but like this year's gonna be different. But we're actually making it different this year. So years prior, so like Vermilion's probably a 5-hour drive for me. I would go to bed at like 9 because I'd get my rods and everything packed. Go to bed at like 9, wake up at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night, and hit the road. And I'd be at Vermilion at 5 in the morning.
It's like an hour and a half of sleep.
Yep. And I would fish until dark and go to my motel.
See, this is my problem. I will push myself so hard that I can't wake up on time the next morning. Like for me, you're first to the ramp. I'm the last one to leave because I don't like to leave until I got nothing left.
So I wouldn't say I want to say I'm last to leave, but I'll stay till 7, 8 o'clock every night.
Yep.
So there's probably maybe 1 or 2 guys left.
Yep.
But that way, but I also know my sleep is important too. So if I leave at 7:30 and I have a 20-minute drive to my motel, eat supper, take a shower, relax, and then next thing it's 10 o'clock.
Right.
And you have to get up at 4. So, but you do that 5 days in a row, you got nothing left by tournament day. So I also know that sleep is important too. And when you're starting the day number 1 of practice off with like 2 hours of sleep, like in a 5-hour drive, and you get there and you fish for 15 hours, like the physical side of this sport is incredibly difficult.
For sure, dude.
Incredibly difficult.
My problem is I'll figure out a bite and then I'll scan till like 2 a.m. or 1 a.m. or midnight or 11, and then I'm just get off the water and I'm dead tired, and then I'll sleep till like 8 the next day.
Yeah, but you're still putting the time.
Exactly. Yep. So to me, it's about making sure you are trusting the process, putting in the time, whatever that process is for you, whatever that means to you, stick to it. Hold yourself accountable.
It will ruin.
I'm just bad with routines that way.
It'll ruin my day if I'm not the first person there.
Really?
There's one person that challenges me every time.
Who's that?
He's a friend of mine though. It's Clayton Storr, and he fishes a champion tour.
He does.
I call him Buddy. His nickname is Buddy.
He's a great dude.
He's a very nice dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's the one person that challenges me every morning. And when he beats me, it's usually by a couple minutes. Just, God damn it. Your boat's in the water before mine. What the hell?
Dude, he's a super nice dude. I didn't really get to talk to him much till Gull and Serpent, but
he's a nice guy.
Just very down to earth.
Yep.
Awesome dude. There's a lot of people like that. But, dude, I gotta pee again. Is that bad?
Dude, you just went like 10 minutes ago.
I know, dude. Do you think it's a prostate thing, or
I don't know. You're young. I wouldn't worry about it.
I think it's just the space dust?
I'll keep the garage warm for you.
I mixed in a space dust. I think that's what it is. Has there been any like techniques each year? Do you kind of like say, I'm going to learn this, and this year, and you have kind of like a hot list? Was there any like techniques that you broke through on last year, like without getting into anything?
Hover rig.
Yeah.
Hover rig for sure.
Is there anything on your list this year? Like for me, it's brushing up on, techniques that I've done, but I want to do better at,
To be honest, one thing I'm really, 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 really going to focus a lot on this year is more with my forward-facing sonar. It's just hard around home because I don't know if this is like an excuse I keep making for myself, but like a lot of lakes we fish are grass.
Yep.
So it's very hard to use it. You can use it, but it's not the end-all be-all. And then down home where I'm from, our lakes are very, very, very dirty, and our fish relate to cover.
Yep.
They don't get out and suspend around bait and stuff like that. They're on cover constantly. Yep. So our structure, it definitely plays. It lets you know if they're there, but it's not like you can pan around and chase these open water fish,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I want to find other ways to use it. And there's one thing that I do that I don't think is really mainstream yet, that I'm going to try to really dial in this year. This hopefully it'll kind of give me an edge in some situations, but
sure.
I don't know if you want to talk about. I don't know.
No, we'll just leave that.
Yeah.
We'll leave it at that. I think the fact is like to continue to push yourself. To me, like
if you're not learning, you're sitting stagnant.
Bingo.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude.
Because the sport is always evolving.
Well, there's a lot of people that don't change.
And then you go stagnant.
Bingo.
You can be really good at what you do, and that situation may arise here and there, but not every time.
Well, Newman said it best with this is like, there's a lot of good fishermen out there. But to be a good tournament fisherman,
different.
Mm-hmm. It's different. And to me, it's that constant evolution. I mean, you look at competition, you look at technology, you look at the tools we have, and you look at the people using them. It's like hockey. My dad and I were talking about this the other week. My dad was like, hockey's crazy. I went on YouTube and I watched the 1985 Stanley Cup Finals. And then I went on YouTube and I watched the 1992 Stanley Cup Finals. And then I watched today's Stanley Cup Finals. And they looked like peewees out there. And these were the best people in the world in 1992. And then I watched the 1999 Stanley Cup Finals. And then I watched, 2005 Stanley Cup Finals. Then I watched the 2012 Stanley Cup Finals. Then I watched the 2023 Stanley Cup Finals. And, like, to keep on the analogy, like hockey equipment, I'm like, well, yeah, Dad, they were, like, playing with wood and sticks, and their pads probably weighed 15 to 20 pounds heavier. Yeah, they look slower. Yeah, their hands weren't as good. But at the same time, like with the internet, with information, you have more access. Like the internet has almost leveled the playing field.
There's a lot of bad information out there too, though.
Oh, for sure.
You got to sift through that.
That's where we come in. That's the filter screen, right?
Yeah.
We are a filter. All we are is a filter screen for information, right? And it's how we use it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Getting like deep here, but
I think we talked about this when we're eating lunch.
Yeah.
Like you cannot consume all of the information there is out there now.
No.
Like it's just an endless amount.
I kind of stopped. To be honest with you, I kind of stopped.
So what do you say? So if you're gonna watch a YouTube fishing video, what do you watch? I know what I'm looking at. I know what I'm watching.
I'm looking for something specific that I'm looking for at that time, or I'm watching something just that I enjoy. Like, I'll watch Sobe, or I'll watch Wheeler, or I'll watch
Sobe.
Yep.
So I don't really watch Wheeler anymore.
I don't either.
I don't watch Scott Martin anymore. Those are entertainment value productions, I feel like.
Yeah.
So I'm watching I watch all of Monya's videos. Even though he's not fishing, but he's
Moyna's-
talking through his thoughts, right?
I love that.
Yeah.
His half-hour long rants are awesome.
Yeah, but he's letting you know what he's thinking and why he's thinking that way, what happened, and breaking it down. I watch Todd Castleton. He's pretty negative, but
he's a little negative, but
I watch some of his stuff. I want to watch people actually fishing, but not making a video. Does that make sense?
yeah, it does.
It's almost like
Bassmaster Live versus
the TV show.
Yep.
Yeah.
Watching the live coverage of them not catching of that, like how it's going through their brain.
I watch all of the Bassmaster Live. I watched every day of the Red Crest, but I will not watch the actual Red Crest show when it airs. And I will not watch Bassmaster when it airs. Because all the information I want to know I've already seen.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I'm not I used to watch for entertainment purposes, but now I've watched so much of it, it almost feels like BS. So now I'm watching the guys that are actually fishing. And
Sure.
what are they doing? Like, I actually watch a lot of Ben Milliken, which I know a lot of people probably don't like him.
No,
But
I'm indifferent.
a lot of his videos, he's just sitting there fishing and talking you through what he's thinking and what he's doing as he's catching these fish. And he's showing you live scope screenshots and recordings, and you can watch how these fish are reacting to his baits, what baits he's throwing, what he's doing. Like,
Right.
I watch a lot of that. Like, I'm watching fishing videos as their people are fishing, like a live, like a Bassmaster Live.
Yep.
I've been doing that for like the last year and a half, and I kind of got away from the entertainment side of it. Like when the travel vlogs come out with like Scott Martin, all the guys
Yep.
first started doing all that stuff, and people
Yep.
were recording their journey along the way. That stuff was awesome, you know. But there's so much of it.
At your
So
level,
much of
though,
it.
you're at the level of I'm looking for the edge.
I'm looking for tidbits.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Mhm.
And I think hopefully our podcast kind of showcases that. I like to think of our podcast as like the Bassmaster Live podcast because
Yeah.
it's longer. It's maybe not as we don't pack it all into 45 minutes,
But things
there's
get
little
things get
tidbits in
leaked
it.
out.
Yep.
Like
Yep.
after I leave, I'm like, God, I should have never said that.
Well, hey, all you got to say is cut this out, cut that out, and the last thing I want to do is piss our guests off. So,
But when you're talking, you know, like you get comfortable. That's when, you know, people say things, and that is what I am looking for when I'm watching content.
but there's little things that come out and like what we're talking about that maybe aren't like a, hey, go here, throw this. It's more so like you're learning how the person thinks. You're learning,
Exactly.
you know, those types of things. And Bassmaster Live, like
Like this more we were talking about in there about glide bait fishing. We
Yeah.
talked about it on the podcast how I was saying like when you're gonna watch a red crest on TV,
Yep.
all you're gonna see when they make the production side, the video of it, is you're gonna see glide bait, mag draft.
yep,
Catch, fish, catch, oh my god.
yep,
But when you're not seeing is Edwin Evers just missed 4 in a row before he caught one. You're not going to see Adrian Avina is halfway through his day. He's 4 hours into the tournament. He has 0 fish, and he finally caught his first one, and it was a 1.5 pounder. He's been throwing a glide bait all day.
right.
And he says, it's so frustrating because I've seen 40 or 50 fish follow my glide bait today. So
You don't learn how to actually do it from those events. You don't learn like, hey, this could happen. Hey,
Yeah.
this could happen. Hey, Steve Kennedy on the last day, they didn't eat a frog.
Yeah. Oh, God. I felt so bad.
You know?
I was really rooting for him.
Oh, me too. I wanted to see him do that, but
But it's like, I don't know. It's like, that's part of the reason why I don't like Facebook and social media.
yeah.
Because people see, people are posting what they want you to see. And it's not always real, you know?
What do you get from it? Like what is there to take? I'm the same way. If we didn't have a podcast or I do tournament fishing updates and I post about the podcast, but I'm not a Facebook, Instagram hero guy because what do you learn from pictures? Hey, he caught some big bass.
Nothing.
That's it.
Nothing. Facebook and Instagram is a marketing tool, in my opinion.
It's a look at me. Look
Yeah.
what I caught. Hey, we have a podcast coming out. Hey, I want a boat. Hey,
Yeah.
you know.
I really don't like social media at all. Like if I didn't have to have a social media account, I probably wouldn't. And I didn't forever. I just opened mine, a year and a half ago?
Right.
Started one.
How's that been going? Good.
I mean, I have no idea what's good. I have 1,000 followers. That's probably nothing.
That's pretty good for how long you've been having it.
But and the thing is, I try to be real. Like I don't like.
That's key.
I don't know. Like when I'm posting, I truly believe. Like if I'm posting, like like I went and blasted him on a Northland tackle frog today. Like I truly did.
Right.
You know, like I'm not creating, which a lot of people are. That's why I don't like Facebook. 'Cause I don't feel like it's real. You know.
I understand that. But I think you're one of the realest dudes out there, and I think that is a good testament to any sponsor you do have, and any sponsor you've gained is you truly believe in that product before you approach them or before they approach you. And I was going to touch on this. I noticed you picked up Relevant, which...
I did not.
Oh?
No. I just like their sunglasses.
Well, good.
No, I did not. I did not pick. I talked with them a little bit, but you know, it's just I don't know. Just never come to terms on anything. I mean,
I love their sunglasses.
I'm gonna be wearing their sunglasses all year long.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, they're not my sponsor. No, I like what I like. You know,
Yeah.
I made a post about VMC the other day. I'm not
I saw
sponsored
that.
by VMC.
And Redline hooks?
I just love VMC hooks. Like
Pre-Redline?
pre-Redline, yeah. I am like 90% VMC.
See, I like them, but I bend them. That Nico hook, I bend it.
What size are you using?
The number 2 or
Number 2?
or number 1. That's just me. That's just me. I use the B10 Stinger instead because I feel it's just as sharp and I don't bend it out. Now these Redline hooks, I'm curious about because
I bought a whole pile of them. They look phenomenal.
I mean, if you're using VMC, obviously it's all in my head because it works.
I'm 90% VMC, 5% Aaron Martin's G Finesse, and 5% Ichikawa.
Yeah, I will. Them Ichikawas are.
You turned me on to those. Like Brad had been, oh, you gotta try. And I bought some of their flipping hooks. I did not like them.
I've never tried their flipping hook.
I straightened every single one out.
I believe that.
Boom, boom, boom. Straightened.
Never run their flipping hooks. Their treble hooks are
Trebles
the deal.
are the deal.
Yeah.
For sure. So then VMC come out with their red lines here. So the reason why I ran VMC trebles,
Yep.
I run them on my Bagleys, my B1s and my B2s.
Yep.
Because when I'm square billing, you're square billing, lay downs, cover.
Yep.
Usually I run heavier line.
Yep.
So that I can really lean on them. And
Right.
they're high-bred short shanks, you won't straighten them out.
Huh.
So you can really lean on that fish, and you can control that fish
Sure.
and get them away, which I don't think you probably won't straighten out an Ichikawa, ones that I've used.
See, and when it comes to VNC, the only hook I've straightened out or had
The Nico?
is the Nico one.
I've done a few of them, but not many.
But if you're not yank on them, you probably never straighten one out. You know.
I lost a big one in a tournament because I straightened one out, but I was really leaning on them hard too.
Sure.
But I thought it was odd that I straightened the hooks. I hardly ever do, but it's just a preference thing, you know. It's like, and that goes back to practicing and what rods you use and what baits you use and what like it all is what works for you, and what can you find your niche that and you hone in on that and dial in.
Yep.
Figure out what works for you. Like I like to punch mats and flip. I like to flip milfoil with a really heavy rod, you know. Like,
Yep.
And like Fighter, he likes a 7-foot medium heavy.
Right. Right.
I want to move line and move that fish.
Yeah, you want heavy.
And when I'm casting a jig, I want a 7-foot heavy or 7.6 heavy.
Sure.
Like some guys like a 7.2 medium heavy. I can't stand throwing a jig on a 7.2 medium heavy.
Depends on the jig for me. I'm a little weird.
And like me, like a lot of guys like throwing jig worms on a 7-foot medium spinning rod.
Mm-hmm.
I use whenever I grab any spinning rod ever, it is always 7-foot medium light. It's just what I like. It's
Yep.
every person's different. So if I say, hey, you need to go buy this 7.6 heavy casting rod to throw roller jigs on, or what to throw this jig on, you know, and then you get it. It might not work for you. You might not like it, you know. Like
Right.
it all depends on. You got to find what works for you. You got to find your zone, your practice method,
Yep.
whatever works. You know, it just
Your style, your deal.
VMC. I love VMC because it works for me. That's what the hook that I've landed on over all these years.
Yep.
Now they come out with the nano coating hooks.
Yeah, it helps.
So I'm excited about them. But I like them because I tend to lean on heavier rods and heavier line.
Yep.
And their hooks tend to be a heavier gauge
Heavier
hook.
gauge. Yep. Yep.
And it's really hard time bending them out.
Right.
As far as like a casting hook were to go, you know. But
Yep,
you talk
yep.
about bending a Nico hook.
That's the only one I've bent, so I can't really I can't really talk besides that.
So that's why I landed on VMC. I like to use heavier rods, heavier line. VMC has a stouter hook than most brands out there.
Right.
And I hardly ever lose fish. Hardly ever. And so that's just where I landed, you know.
Well, and you're the type of guy who spends a lot of time on hookup ratio. I remember us talking about that
It's a
in
huge
the last
deal.
podcast. Is hookup ratio is a big deal.
You win or lose a tournament on it.
Yeah, I can relate with that for sure. For sure.
How many fish did you lose on go?
5?
5? You would have won.
You lost fish too, though.
2.
Okay.
2. I broke 1 and lost 1. I don't ever break fish off.
If there's anything I've learned just interviewing good guys like you, it's I can try to be Noah Schultz, but I'll never be Noah Schultz better than Noah Schultz.
Well, I talked about 10 minutes ago. Like, you got to find what works for you.
Bingo.
Like,
Bingo.
what we're honing on what you're really good at. Like, I'm good at a few things, but I'm trying to be like okay at other things, so I can lean on them too if I have to.
Right.
But if I ever get like into like if there's ever a tournament where it's a pad or punch and mats or punch and read or flip and reads thing, like
Right.
it's gonna go down.
That's your deal.
That is what I really excel at in glide bait fishing, and I feel like I used to think I was really good at grass fishing, but I just feel like over the years I just feel like I've back home I excel at fishing heavy cover, like heavy. Like, and I won so much money doing that back home too. Like, I can go behind people all day long and have 100% confidence, even though they're right in front of me doing the same thing, that I will fucking.
And I feel that way the opposite of heavy cover, like fishing offshore for largemouth. Less now than it used to be. Used to feel a lot better. And then certain smallmouth bites. If I'm on a certain smallmouth bite, I feel like you feel like you have an edge or something like that.
Still fucking get me.
I don't fish them like a lot of people fish them. A lot of people fish smallmouth, I think, a lot faster than I do. And that's my greatest blessing and curse with smallmouth.
Really?
Yeah, I think.
So one thing I need to work on is power fishing.
Don't we all? If you're a good power fisherman.
But I would see, what do you consider power? I consider
You
power.
banging docks to me is power fishing,
Casting
and winning
winding.
a boat in another event. I mean, that's power. Like, you won power fishing this year.
See,
Twice.
I consider that like bottom fishing.
But that's
Okay.
power. That's Greg Hackney power fishing.
Chunking and winding. There we go. That's what I meant.
Gotcha.
Chunking and winding.
Me too. That's my along with forward facing sonar. That's my number one thing to build upon is winding this year. There's days or events I feel great winding, and then like that one on the river tells me I need to learn more about winding. Like that particular
I think that was a
event.
timing deal.
Probably, but
You
I
could
think
probably go out of cut mode now.
no, dude, we already talked about this. We're back in we're back in the game. Like the fact that you fished a finesse crankbait, behind me. So like those little things like that, like winding. There's a reason KVD is the best winder, and Rick Clun, like, they know those little nuances, those little tweaks, and the A-rig is something I need to throw more.
Me too.
I
I'm
think-
still learning about it.
Me too.
Like, I didn't. Like, the Mille Lacs video shows me catching a lot of fish on an A-rig, which I did the last hour and a half.
Sure.
But there's a big chunk that nobody's seen, and that was I caught a lot of fish on that square bill. They show one, but I caught quite a few fish on that square bill.
Well, it's funny you say that because, like, the Champions Tour video on Gull, there was a lot of fish I caught that the camera wasn't in the boat that looked a hell of a lot better than when the camera was in the boat. But it's funny you say that because I was on Mille Lacs filming a deal for the Mille Lacs Smallmouth Alliance this October. And just for whatever reason, you rang in my head, and I started throwing an A-rig and a swim bait, and it just wasn't going. So I ended up catching them on a tube and whacking their eyes out on a tube. But it's just, you can't have preconceived notions on how it's going to go down. And you have to have, how many options? You don't want to have too many options, though. Like, that's the thing, is the sea, I mean, as far as the sea goes, you have 100 options, 200 options that are viable on any lake you go to.
Yeah.
How, like, what's your limit as far as how many options you're gonna allow your mind to bring to the table.
That's one thing I think I do really good at is I can look at a lake we're going to go to and I can say, okay, I'm going to explore these 7, 8 things.
Yep.
And I'm going to put everyone's dock talk and everything out of my mind. And I'm going to find and I'm going to hone in on these small group of things that I'm good at.
Yep. Yep.
And ignore the rest of the bullshit. I feel like I'm good at that.
Sure. So how many things is that? Is that 7 things? Is that 5 things? Is that 10 things? If it's Brian Thrift, it's
No, it's a
10
lot.
things on each side of the
Yeah.
deck, right?
I would say a tip. Like you might see me with 20 rods out sometime,
Uh-huh.
but honestly, there's probably 5 things I'm actually.
Yeah, you have 5 of each. You have only 5 things on 20 rods.
Yes.
Okay.
Or there's like 5 things I'm actually confident in.
You have 5 A and B. Call them A and B.
Those other rods might be for this one scenario where I make one cast and then put it back and I don't ever touch it again.
Brian Thrift would agree with that. Like,
So
I
there's,
mean-
if I can like whitefish, there's already 1, 2, 3, 4 things that I'm confident that I'm going to have success with.
Mm-hmm.
Not saying I'm going to win, but confident that if I'm going to have a good tournament, this is how I'm going to catch them because of how the lake sets up.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
same
Yep.
with Lahama do. Big Stone, how the lake sets up, there's certain things I'm going to go there and try to do.
Right.
I'm not going to beat it to death for 5 days straight in practice.
Right.
And I'm going to keep other things, you know, like keep checking them just to see. That's another thing too, like Pokegama, perfect example.
Yeah.
I've never fished a suspended fish in my life until I went to Pokegama.
Sure.
I didn't know what base chasers were.
Yep.
I'm in southern Minnesota. I fish sloughs.
Yeah.
You
No,
know?
fish bullhead waters.
I had no idea what suspended fish were. Like what's this? Everyone's talking about these smelt. A smelt out here, and they're getting bait balls. I just keep hearing all this stuff, and I'm like, all right,
They're
well,
pelagic out there.
yeah. So I just like trucking an A-rig around one of the days, and boom, I catch one. I'm like, okay. So I'm starting. What does this look like? Why was it here? You know, and boom, catch another one. Go to another place. What's this look like? Boom, catch another one. So I start to put the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yep.
I'm starting to pattern these fish in practice.
Yep.
But I don't know where I'm going with this. But being able to adapt when you need to adapt.
Yep. Yep.
Like if I wasn't open-minded and saying, I'm going to go there and I'm going to flip milfoil.
Right.
And I'm going to fish docks all day. And that's how I'm going to force my tournament. Not kidding. I never fished a suspended fish in my life.
Right.
I didn't know what I was doing, but I tried it. I figured it out, and I was able to learn and practice, and I put it together in the tournament. That's where I caught a bulk of my weight was fishing smallmouth over 30, 40 foot of water, you know?
Sure.
Like,
So, like, going into that event, right, you had maybe never fished suspended fish. It was new to you, but you knew it could play.
yeah.
So, going into it, you're like, okay, this could play. I'm going to try this. Now, most people, when they say, I'm going to try something, they fucking lick their finger, hold it up, throw 5 casts, and say, nope, nope, I don't want to do this anymore. How long did you spend doing it? Because you knew it could be a factor. Because it's like a jerkbait. I'm a 3-and-out jerkbaiter, but I know that's my biggest mistake with jerkbait fishing is not keeping it in my hand long enough. There's certain baits, a glide bait, a swim bait, blah, 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 blah,
Yeah.
that take a little bit of commitment. That's the problem.
Well, I think I got lucky on Pokegama.
Yeah, sure.
I think during practice, I pulled up the first point on the lake. So I grabbed my drop shot, and I'm just fishing the weed line. Doink, 4-pound smallmouth. I'm like, oh my God. So I guess weed line again. Doink, 4-pound smallmouth. I'm like, oh my God. So I just write it off, start fishing around, fishing pencil reeds, catch some largies, and I'm like, I should go back over there. Just kind of
Fuck around.
chuck an A-rig, but stay off, you know?
Sure.
Stay off. Just kind of look around, kind of.
There was fish in that area. Let me see if I could catch them this way type of thing.
But the wind was blowing in there too.
Well, that helps.
So that's what I started to learn.
Sure.
It was very wind driven. And I learned that very quickly because once I realized that those smallmouth were there because of the wind, then I could like, okay, well, let's go see where else I can go that's wind driven. And all of a sudden, doink. And I was calling my shots and I'm like, holy shit. okay, I can do this, you know?
Right,
Like, this
right.
isn't as hard as those guys make it seem, you know?
Right. Like,
But it
this is
wasn't-
fucking easy.
But
Like,
the biggest hurdle for me to get over was that I wasn't fishing anything.
right?
That's-
Soft structure.
Yes. It's like
Structure that moves.
you're not fishing, you're not casting it as a set target on the bottom that is stationary.
Right.
That was the biggest hurdle for me mentally to get over, was to keep in mind that I could cast 360 degrees around my boat, and it all depended on where the bait was. You know, and that was the biggest hurdle for me to get over with.
Well, it's a river, but it's not. Like Main Lake Pokegama, it's not a river, but it's pelagic.
Mm-hmm.
So the only thing, so you've got a food chain, right? A circle of life, if you will. A circle of life, if you will, right? And hey, anything's fair game. You get you a foggy geezer, you get you a space dust, whatever.
You got an opener?
Shit, I used a lighter for the last one. Just like old times.
Been a while.
So, got him. So you talk about the circle of life. What do the bait that the bass eat on Pokegama, let's say, is a plankton probably of some sort, right? An organism that would take a microscope or whatever to see, that is easily moved by
Wind.
wind, or, you know, if it was a river, it would be ever moving plankton south.
Yeah.
The plankton's always moving south, so to speak, on a river with these pelagic lakes. With Pokegama, there is no current, so to speak. There is called wind. That's it. So it's ever changing. It's ever, and that is, to me, why lakes can be really challenging to, say, like a river angler.
I hate rivers.
And see, a river angler would be the complete opposite of that, because they understand the wind is moving one direction. Well, wind obviously plays on a river. We found that out the last podcast.
It could have
we
been
had.
wind, or it could have just been the change in the pressure. Like,
But either way, the wind plus the current was pushing them here.
Mhm.
You have at least a constant, which is the
current-
river
the
flows
current.
X.
Yep.
So then the only variable is water level,
Mm-hmm.
which lakes don't have. So lakes don't have as much a water level variable, but they have a wind variable, because it could be blowing X way, but it
Yeah.
could be, like, the current could be going the opposite direction the next day. And Vermilion's a very wind-driven lake that way too.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I was talking to a fighter last week, and he was talking about a spot on Tonka that, you know, was really good with a north wind, and how him and Figgy drove like 2 hours, or, you know, idled this insane amount of time. They made this insane amount of adjustment because of one small switch in the wind for like an hour. And they only had like 10 to 20 minutes on this spot, and it was like a 5-mile-an-hour north wind. That's it. And sounds like they lost a couple big ones, but it was like, that's all it took.
And that's great. You know, it is so true, and that is probably one of the hardest things for a tournament angler
Oh, fuck.
to understand and get over.
Right.
Is like Pokegama. Like, I can give you tons of examples throughout the Champions Tour history, and that's the one thing the Champions Tour has taught me too. Is back home,
Yep.
they are spot lakes.
They're spots.
We have 1,000 acres.
Yep.
These fish live where they live. They're
They
not
live here.
They're kind of wind driven, but they are spot lakes.
Not as wind driven as Pokegama, for
So,
sure.
and I did that very quickly, but it's like Pokegama, tournament day, second half, I'm barreling out, and the wind's pounding. I'm like, just driving. Hey, this point fits the pattern. Pull in. Haven't fished this point in my life. Boom, 415. Smallie.
Damn.
I'm like, nice. That'll work. Long story short, caught a couple more along the way, and then my trolling motor batteries died. So now I'm like, okay, I can't fish this wind-driven stuff anymore. I'm out of juice. I'm trying to think, what can I do? I know what I can do. I can go fish for largemouth, right? But that bite has been horrible.
Sure.
I practiced this stretch that had some good shallow vegetation. Practiced it looked phenomenal in practice. Never had a bite. But I'm like, I know there's got to be fish there.
Yep.
Like, I have to go there and check it. And just because I didn't get bit in practice, I still went there. Like most people wouldn't go because they didn't get bit.
I love. Yeah, those are the best spots.
I went there and I caught like 10. I won the tournament by like 15 pounds.
Dude. I was gonna get to something, but you made me think of like, I personally believe that I've become a better angler, trying to understand practice when I'm at a spot, how it would act, how I would fish it if the weather was different, how I would fish it if the conditions are different. Dane and I have won a few events doing that, right? Where like on Tonka practice, it was sunny the whole event. And I had a bad practice. Dane had a good practice. And then tournament day, it was cloudy. And then all of a sudden, it was like the stuff I practiced was better than the stuff Dane practiced, aside from a couple spots, because that weather had changed. And we like, and then the river, like any event we've done good in, like looking back, it's fishing the spot. Like we didn't practice the spot. Or maybe we practiced the area, but we didn't practice, we didn't catch them where we caught them.
Mm-hmm.
We practiced it, didn't catch them, but the weather or something was different tournament day.
You made the adjustment.
And it was like, yeah, we didn't catch them here, but it wasn't like this, this, and this. We need to go here right now. Mm-hmm. And like we go catch a 4-pounder. Like kind of stupid shit like that.
That's one thing I am learning more and more and more is how much weather, like, especially with these bigger bodies of water, is how much weather can move these fish.
Yeah.
Like that really blew my mind a few years back. 'Cause like I said, I was so used to fishing spots. We'd sit on a rock pile all day long in a tournament.
Yep.
But you get to a big body of water, these fish move. They don't live on a certain ping pong table size spot.
Well, they might live in this garage, right? But they don't come feed at the ping pong table until
it's time.
Mm-hmm. Right? Let's say the ping pong table's rocks. Okay? And then let's say there's grass around the ping pong table. Well, when it's cloudy, they're probably going to be on that ping pong table maybe because,
Yep.
If it's cloudy, they might be in that grass. Or if it's sunny, they might be in that grass more. Or what have you.
It kind of goes back to the gull how I said in the morning, I was fishing the weed line. It was kind of cloudy in the morning, gloomy.
It was.
And those fish were not there. But they should be there.
I didn't bust them as good as I thought I was going to bust them.
They should have been there. But I'm like, they have to be either in the grass a little deeper or they have to be up on the bank because it was pretty close to the bank.
Yep.
But it wasn't sunny, so in the Bass magazine, the Bass fishing guidebook, they should not be in those docks, right?
No, they shouldn't have been. I caught one on them, but
I slid in and boom, there they were. Boom, 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 boom. That was in the morning.
Yep, that's crazy.
It's like
you picked a good stretch.
It's just so weird how it all. It's hard. Like you think you got things dialed. Like the sun should drive them under the docks. But then there's that one day where it's really cloudy and rainy and shitty, and then they're there on the docks. It's like it's always keeping an open mind, always kind of testing things as you go.
Staying positive, testing negative, if you will. And like the same reason you're right is the same reason you're wrong.
Mm-hmm. Like we think we know all the stuff about fish, how they're gonna act, but at the same time, it's like we get proven wrong all the time.
Well, they're like those fish, they're 10 steps ahead of you.
Mm-hmm.
Like think about it. That like when you. It'd be like if we lived in the woods all the time. Let's say we're Native Americans and we're living in the woods all the time. We're not living in these heated houses. We're living in the woods in the cold. We're making a fire to stay warm. We are going to adapt to nature and the changes of nature a lot quicker than humans have been like trained to do. Those fish, there's a pressure change. They feel it because they've been immersed in it their whole life.
Yep.
They've spent 5 minutes outside the water when Noah caught them, or whatever. Those fish, they're trained by the weather, by the pressure, by all of these facets that we don't necessarily immerse ourselves in. We live in a house, a warm house, and we separate ourselves from nature, so to speak.
Yeah, I agree. But it's just...
But like tournament angler like you, you re-immerse yourself and you allow yourself to change with the environment, with the bass. You allow yourself to listen to nature.
I shouldn't say you have to. If you want to be consistent, you have to.
Yes.
Yes, you can win tournaments off practices. Yes, you can be successful. But if you want to consistently do well, you got to be willing to flip on a dime and forget what you think you know.
You can win tournaments talking to bass, but you'll win more tournaments listening to bass.
Yes.
Is that a good way to put it?
Mm-hmm.
You can win some tournaments talking to the bass, but you'll win more listening to the bass. And you, to me, are the epitome. Matt Thompson said it best, trusting your fishbone.
Yeah.
But a fishbone is tough because it's a fishbone is a muscle. So, like, what is a fishbone? We should get into that because, to me,
it's memories.
Is it memories? Is it gut? Because memories will burn you, Noah.
But with memories is what drives your gut.
Correct. So it's a balance of that. Mm-hmm. It's a balance of not letting memories haunt you, but letting memories teach you.
I shouldn't say memories. I should say experiences.
Great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because you think tournament fishing is just like a numbers game, right? So if you think Gull Lake example, perfect example. I was just getting ready to go offshore because the clouds were thick and gray. And it was kind of dark and it was kind of gloomy. But I was just getting enough bites on the shallow docks. I just had to check them quick. I was getting enough bites just to keep me in the hunt. And that sun popped. So my experience in the past has told me when sun pops, sun gets really bright and hot, these fish are going to slide into these docks.
Yep.
So I'm like, well, in the past, X amount of times, I've done well when it's been really bright and sunny. So I'm going to give these docks one more shot before I peel out of here.
Right.
And that one more shot was enough information for me to know, like, hey, this is what I need to do to win. You know,
right.
Like, and same with serpent. Like, I've had enough experience with Mega Live now to read the fish's mood, even though it was still practice.
Yep.
That I was getting enough feedback from smallmouth offshore to know that was a losing deal. Not to take anything away from Hunter.
It was a winning deal, but it was also...
It was going to go away. Yeah,
it was a short window.
It was a very short window. He capitalized. Like, he did... I was
pretty cool.
It was multiple things. It was a losing... I shouldn't say losing deal. It was a deal that was going away fast throughout the day. And you had how many anglers on that small body of water? 90% of them were going to fish some smallmouth, and I knew that because it was the obvious choice.
Yep.
And the structure was obvious.
Yeah, there's plenty of it, too.
So
you're living on all of it.
I knew to win that tournament doing that, you had to get on a spot. You had to capitalize early like he did. And I really thought he was going to win.
Oh, I mean, he had everybody by...
He blasted him in the morning.
Blasted him.
I'm like, well, this is his. He did what he needed to do.
Yep.
And I didn't think I could do that. So I didn't try to do that, you know.
But imagine catching him that good. How is it? How do you do anything different?
That was his downfall.
Bingo, right? Your greatest, like it's a double-edged sword, fishing. Your greatest freaking, well, it's like me offshore on Go. Same thing. Not the same. I didn't blow the doors off like he did.
Like, he blew them off.
Like his double-edged sword was aggressively good one way and aggressively bad
I was telling
the
everybody
other.
at break, Hunter's going to win this boat. There's ain't nobody going to catch him. This is Hunter's boat, you know?
I'll be honest. I don't think anyone saw anyone catching him.
No, like I did not see anybody else winning but him. But it's the day developed and things changed and experiences. Like we go back to talking about not memories but experiences. So I didn't have any memories on that lake.
Yeah.
But things in the past have told me sun's getting high, lake is slicked off.
The offshore bite died for sure.
Clearwater lake, you have shallow vegetation, shallow cover. These fish are going to start to look for shade and cover. They're going to come up and pull up, and that's what they did. And
that is what they did.
And I didn't. It's not like I just, I'm going to go pull up shallow, and here they are. It's like I checked that shallow bite like 4 different times throughout the day. Like I kept checking, waiting to see if those fish were going to come up. And I didn't practice that way, which is the craziest thing, you know, because I didn't think it could be won that way. Not that it was won that way, but it contributed.
Sure.
When things went dead for everybody at the end of the day, and there was no other options left, that was the obvious option, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it makes me kind of get a little selfish with the Gull thing because I feel like I checked the docks, what I felt like was as honest as you could check them. And to your point about, like, I kept checking it. I kept checking it. I kept checking it.
Yeah.
There was a point on goal where I stopped checking it because I was leading or
And
because I was...
At the end of the day, it really fired.
Bingo. And, like, it seemed like, based on our conversations, is, like, I was doing the dock thing when you weren't.
Yeah, pretty much.
To an extent.
You were up on the bank, and I was checking my offshore fish.
But, like, I feel like I gave the docks a good... I mean, the Champions Tour, I probably spent 3 hours of the Champions Tour
Really?
on docks.
That didn't make
At least 2
video
hours.
at all.
No, but I only caught 3 fish on them.
See,
That was the
you gave
problem.
him a fair shake then.
I felt
Maybe
like
that
I
was your
did.
demise.
So in practice, it was like, okay, I got this offshore deal going. And then, attention, all smallmouth anglers. Have you thrown the marabou jig? Have you thrown the hair jig? Well, if you have, you're going to want to listen right now. This podcast is brought to you by Veselka Fishing and Customs, a custom rod shop based out of Minnesota, and he has developed the answer, folks. What if I told you you could throw that marabou jig 30 to 50% further than you're casting it right now? Well, Dane, Mr. Veselka himself, has developed the answer. It's a custom 8-foot hair jig rod developed on a steelhead fly blank. He's put custom fly guides on this, so you're really going to be able to outcast the competition, catch more smallmouth. They aren't going to see you. What more do you need? Here's what I need you to do right now. Visit veselkafishing.com. That's VOCELKA fishing.com. This is the 8-foot hair jig rod, but this guy can build you anything you want. If you can dream it, he can do it. This episode is brought to you by just north of Memphis BBQ. This is World Champion Barbecue. If you smoke meat and you don't like good barbecue, I do not know what to tell you right now besides you need to try some of this stuff. They've got their rub. They've got their sauces right on their website. They've got their famous dry rub award-winning seasoning that you can put on ribs, brisket, pulled pork, chicken, wings, anything you like to put on the smoker, on the oven, on the grill, any meat you like to cook, you need some of this dry rub seasoning in your life. But don't forget the sauce, because that's award-winning world champion sauce here. No matter what flavor you like, they've got 3 different sauces, and they are all good. You can drink them straight out the bottle. We've got Sweet Christie's for all you sweet-loving barbecue folk. We've got Christie's Mischief for all you spicy bass anglers out there. And then we've got Christie's Gold. And they'll sell all 3 of them in a combo. But you need to go to their website right now. It's JNOMemphis.com. That's JNOMemphis.com. Dry rub, sauce, barbecue. Let's go! And there was that day of practice where it was just slick and sunny and calm. And I'm like, this offshore deal is not going. And I got a really good dock program going that day. Okay?
That was the same day I figured out some good stretches, too.
And then the last day of practice, it was cloudy and kind of shitty. So
Yep,
I'm like,
I remember that day.
so the only thing I don't have figured out is this in-between deal. So I'm going to spend this whole day of practice getting confidence in an in-between deal in case it's cloudy.
I could not figure that out.
I put a chatterbait in my hand and a crankbait in my hand, and I caught him.
See, I was flipping. I'm not a winder.
Why would you flip when it's cloudy? That's my question to you.
I was flipping when it was sunny.
That makes sense.
Yes.
Flipping when it's sunny makes sense, but that last day of practice, it was cloudy. So it was like, how do I...
Last day of practice, I was fishing offshore, looking for more schools.
And see, for me, I'd found those schools. Like,
I think I caught one fish all day.
I need to lead. I have enough offshore shit to do. I can't do that, but it's cloudy, so I'm not gonna I don't need to go bang docks.
I never thought of winding. I was bottom baits all the way, or flipping milfoil, or skipping docks. That's what my practice game was.
It was funny. That winding day, when it was cloudy, I put that chatterbait in my hand, and I catch a 4 to 4.5.
You're catching giants.
But I wouldn't catch them in the same. I'd go 100 more yards, and I'd catch another one. But tournament day, I couldn't get him to eat the chatterbait. I get him on a crankbait.
I take that back. I did do some cranking in practice.
Okay.
I did do some cranking in practice. I was actually throwing I was cranking the deep edge. And I was throwing a Bagley DB2. I don't know if you've tried throwing that in grass. Have you tried throwing that in grass?
No.
It reminds me of a wigglewort.
That good, huh?
Big, wide.
I suppose.
It like pushes the grass out of the way.
Yep.
It comes through the grass real well. So I was doing that in practice. Actually,
It comes out of it good.
yeah.
Yep.
It's clean. It
Yep.
reminds me of a wigglewort because it's got such a big, wide wobble to it.
Yep.
And I actually caught quite a few fish in practice on it. But I don't know, I didn't even throw it in the tournament. I didn't feel like I ran into a scenario where I could do it. It makes sense?
Yeah.
I had it on my deck, but I don't think I ever threw it.
I had one little plug that is like only place I've ever caught fish on it is Gull Lake. The only place I've ever thrown it is Gull Lake. But when I
think I
throw
know
it,
what
I
it
got
is.
bit. And that's all I remembered. It. So that last day of practice, I'm like, geez, when Dane and I were practicing for team trail, I would just get just a pile of bites on this. They just weren't 5-fish. So I'm like, throw it and I catch a 2-pounder. Throw it to catch a 2-pounder. I'm like, oh,
Then you caught a good one.
I'm going to get bites on this. So tournament day, I never caught a big one on it. And my first fish on it was a 3-something. I'm like, oh.
I remember that. I didn't think the big ones ate this
No,
thing.
I really didn't. I really didn't think I
that's
could get a
funny.
big bite on a crankbait. But it's weird how that works, though. Like, just thinking about it, it's such a voodoo, it's such a mentally hard sport to conquer. And there's so few people who've done it. And I think there's a reason people resonate with you and your story. And I think it's the story of Noah Schultz is a little bit of an underdog story.
Yeah.
And I
say
think
so.
everybody can relate with a good underdog story, but just I'm proud of you, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you, sir.
At the end of the day, you've done things that you're the hottest angler in the state of Minnesota, hands down over the past however many years, and I hope you're still mad at him, and I think everybody here
More mad now than ever.
knows what you got.
Like I want it. Like I said in the beginning, I want to win more than I ever have before now.
That's cool, man.
Like it's
that drives me.
the more I win, the more I want it, and
Yeah.
I cannot. It's almost like being an alcoholic. It's like you just can't get enough. You crave more and more and more, and your tolerance gets higher and higher. You just want more and more.
I get too hungover to be an alcoholic, but the high of feeling a tournament win, I can relate with you on that sense where winning a
crave it.
tournament is the most addicting thing in the world, and it turns us anglers, all of us, into crackheads.
Mm-hmm. And the losses motivate you.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
The wins motivate you. The losses motivate you. Once you feel that taste of
You want more.
Skeeter boat, I've never felt that taste. I felt the taste of wins, and I've felt wins, and I've felt close to wins, and I mean, sex is great and all, but there's no better feeling in the world than winning a derby. Or
Sorry, hon, but I
feeling
would
close, like-
trade it for a trophy any day.
Yeah, Jenny. Oh, that's
And
so
she
funny.
knows that already. Anyways, she knows how addicted I am. She married me.
Dude, she's cool, man. Like, I know you say she can growl at you sometimes, but at the end of the day,
That's part of me, though.
that's part of you,
That's
and
part of the motivation.
she knows what's in your blood, and she supports it.
Mm-hmm.
And
We just gotta get her on board for the opens.
I want to hear about this camper. Like,
Oh fuck!
this fucking camper sounds like the Chateau de Camper of
Yeah.
campers. Like, so you sold the boat and bought a camper, or like
Sold a boat and bought a camper.
sold the boat, bought a camper?
Wanted to buy a Vexus.
We'll get there.
Happy wife, happy life.
Imagine how
I'm
much.
I'm calling you out on this one, Jenna.
I'm just saying, Noah, how much money would have like you'd have won $20,000 this year in a
You
Vexus?
think if I'd have bought a Vexus 4 years ago?
I did think about that. I think me and a buddy were thinking about that one day. Like, can you imagine if Noah would have bought a Vexus like at the beginning of his like, holy smokes, he'd have paid for 2 Vexuses
Yeah.
from that.
And it's not just Champions Tour too. It's like all the other big tournaments.
Right.
But it's one of those things. Like what scares me about a Vexus, there's no offense to Vexus, is how long will that program be around? That's a lot of money they're giving away.
It is.
That's the best contingency out there. Period.
I think there's only one guy who would end Vexus contingency, and it would have been you. But being the fact that you didn't buy a Vexus 4 years ago, to me, tells me that you know, it's going to be around for a while longer.
I just that's I don't know. My family comes first. My family comes first. The ability to bring my kids with, so I'm not with them, you know, because like we'd look at last year and I just did my taxes and running through the numbers and all that stuff last year. We were on the road like for the better part of 3 months last year.
Sure.
That's a lot of time away from my kids, you know.
For sure. Well, did they come to every event or
every event? Every single event. They wouldn't come the entire time. I would go up first in some little shit dive motel.
Yep.
And then they would come up like 2 days or a day prior to the event. And then I would move to them, and then we'd be in a hotel and hang out. And so, you know.
So you skipped the whole Mullins Polinick topper thing.
Yes,
Like
right to camper.
Yeah.
Fifth wheel.
See, I'm on the topper train right now, and that's been good to me financially.
You got a topper?
Yeah, I got a topper and a bed in the back of my pickup. Dane and I, like for Leech last year, we slept at the ramp.
Really?
Yep,
See,
for 3 days. That's what we do.
So I'm going to say one more thing, and then we'll go back to the camper.
Yep.
This goes back to, for all the guys that think they can't, that's not even limit to the Champions Tour.
Yeah.
Like any big tournament circuit that you want to fish, you're scared because you ain't got the best boat or the best vehicle. You don't want to pull up to the ramp in your shitty rotted out truck. I did it forever.
Who gives a fuck?
I'm still doing it.
Right.
Like, as long as that boat floats and can get you to the fish, and you can, the biggest hurdle I would say would be the entry fees.
Yeah.
Because you can sleep for free. If
you're
really
Dane and me, yeah.
If you're determined, you can sleep for free. Right? There's no cost. You got to eat when you're at home.
Dude,
right?
In 2018, 2019, Dane and I gave him my parents' rotted out queen bed in his, and I didn't have a topper yet. We would sleep together in his topper, like 2 blankets, you know, not dick to dick, you know, butt to butt.
Butt to nut.
Nope, butt to butt, butt to butt, you know. But the amount of money we saved sleeping in that truck, you know, like those tournaments didn't cost us much, and we had and Rick Klun, I mean, he's one who he likes to sleep by the lake.
Yeah, in a tent.
In a tent.
Yep.
And I remember like
to be one with nature.
Totally,
yep.
Right? Like pressure change. I want to feel it. I want my body to be immersed in nature. I think like that year Dane and I we had a crazy run. Best year of tournament fishing I've ever had was 2019 with Dane. We slept in the truck every event, and just we didn't listen to any dock talk. We didn't listen to nobody saying nothing. We just immersed ourselves intimately with the body of water and not each other.
Not each other.
But there was a tournament on Sturgeon Bay where we tented it. And we slept on roots in Sawyer Harbor, and it was the worst night of sleep I ever had. And he had a heater going in the tent. It was the biggest fire hazard I've ever seen in my life. But man, did we learn shit. And then at the we fished. How I learned to fish rivers was on the Rainy River with Dane. We slept in a tent on the south end of Rainy River, and it was storming. It was just, but we immersed ourselves in the Rainy River, and we just absolutely didn't catch dick in practice. But when we found the deal, it was like click. But there's something to be said about immersing yourself in nature. But getting back to the camper anyway.
Yeah. Yeah, I just want to say one thing, and that if you're thinking about fishing Champions Tour and you don't have a good boat, you don't have a good truck,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Look
no.
at
Look at John Cox.
I had a $500 truck in a 25-year-old boat that never ran. That's how I started the Champions Tour.
You want to
anybody
with a busted powerhead, bud?
Yeah, anybody can do it. So don't
Anyone.
like if you're on the fence and you're worried about I don't have the best equipment. Who cares?
Yeah,
who cares? Like you can. If you don't have a graph, you could beat the bank all day and be competitive, you know?
Johnston Westmoreland won a river event out of just a tin can. Like John Cox. Look at what John Cox has done nationally.
Exactly.
Without a depth finder.
Yes.
Like
that's my point.
I mean, if he has a depth finder, he doesn't really use them.
Just don't let it bother you. Like if I would have worried about that, I would not be where I am today.
Well, look at Keith Bochet.
Yeah. He's fishing the elites out of a John boat.
Yes.
It's a nice John boat.
Well,
But it's
he
a
knows
John
he
boat.
might only win one event, maybe two,
But
maybe
he's-
0. But when he wins, he's going to have something that no one else
Mm-hmm.
is focusing on. It's like you have to use anything you have to your advantage,
Mm-hmm.
right? Maybe I don't have the nicest boat. Maybe I don't have the nicest graphs. Maybe I don't have the nicest stuff. But guess what? I have all of those less distractions,
Less payments.
less payments, less everything, and I'm going to focus 100% of my practice on water that everyone else is splitting because they have forward-facing sonar for the other
Yep.
half. You know what I mean?
Yep.
There's something to that.
I just want to say that, like,
Dude, I respect...
there's a lot of people that hesitate to do what they want to do because of the fact that they don't have a nice boat and a nice truck.
Dude,
Who
I love
cares?
that you said that.
You know, like, who cares?
I love that you said that.
You said you seen it last year. I won 2 boats and I'm still driving around. And it was an upgrade for me. A rusted out, rotted out
Dude,
Chevy.
that's a real
Like,
thing.
It was a 2002. It was low miles, 170,000. Low miles for me. It was rotted out. It was falling apart.
We can all make... I think the point to be had about that is we can all make excuses for something.
Yeah.
You can come up with an excuse for anything. Excuses are like assholes. We all have them and they all stink. But at the end of the day, there's a guy who's had more success than any other angler in the state of Minnesota, who has more kids than you, who has less nice of a truck than you, who has, all of these things that you think you need to have.
You don't need it.
You don't need it.
No.
No, that thing between your ears
That's all you need.
is probably the most important thing you got.
You need that and an entry fee.
But betting
And-
on yourself, like fishing is betting on yourself and learning to trust that and just be okay with betting on yourself and understanding.
The biggest
cool
hurdle
sport.
the biggest hurdle into serious events is the entry fee.
Bingo.
The rest of the things you don't need
Right?
to get started anyways, like.
To get started.
But anyway, back to the camper. So yeah, I
Yeah.
got a
Camper.
camper, bought a new truck, and let me tell you, I upgraded to a
Okay.
2009.
2009.
Mhm.
Oh my God.
Yep. So how old
You got
is
a
that?
14-year-old pickup?
Yep.
Damn, dude.
High rolling now.
High rolling.
It goes back to what we just said. Like you don't need the fancy things.
What kind of pickup did you get?
It's a nice truck. It's a very nice truck for me. What I'm used to
yeah.
driving. It's a 2009 Chevy 3500.
Okay.
So it's a dually. It's a nice truck.
Haul a camper.
Yep.
Yeah.
I need a dually because the wife needed the Taj Mahal.
The fifth wheel, like big fifth wheel?
Yeah.
Winnebago, Jayco, what we got
The
here?
hell is it? Oh, this is a crazy story.
Yeah.
We'll tell the story. I'll probably try wrapping it up. I got a long drive ahead of me.
Yeah, no worries.
So we decided to buy a camper. This was actually at Gull. We had those few days of downtime. You guys went off to practice on Big Stone. We went
Yep.
camper shopping.
Sure.
Well, what the hell,
Fuck yeah, we just want to go.
We spend about $7,000 a year in hotels. So it's like,
That's a significant cost.
yes, it's very significant. And when you're living in a hotel, you're living out of a microwave, so we do a lot of eating out.
Sure.
So it's like,
That adds up too.
this is just getting to the point where this is stupid,
Yep.
Well, let's look at campers. And I'm thinking, okay, it's about like a $20,000 used camper or something, we can all cram in, It'd be just like a hotel. Hotels are small.
Yep.
Long story short, I'm going to call you out, Jenna. Sorry.
You're saying, Jenna.
Sorry. Genitals. That's her nickname. Genitals. We we ended up buying a $50,000 camper. She doubled the budget pretty much because she found some camper down in Texas that she liked. And we had a camper bought in Camping World in Owatonna. We
Yep.
were going to go sign the papers on it. She was scrolling on Facebook, come across this deal. This guy wanted a camper, or he selling his camper for like 65 grand. She's like, oh my God, hon, this is the one. This is what we need. It's great for all of us. It'll fit all the kids. And that way you can get up in the morning and cook breakfast. You don't have to worry about anyone, tripping over anybody, waking
Yep.
anybody up. And I'm like, yeah, okay, I kind of get it. This would be nice. Usually I'm like drinking my coffee in the morning, sitting on the toilet, eating my breakfast on the toilet because I'm living out of the bathroom because I don't want to wake anybody up in the hotel. you know?
Right.
Like, God, that would be nice.
Yeah.
I've never been able to cook breakfast and sit on the couch and watch a show before I go fishing in the morning,
Sure.
I'll hear you out. She said 65. I said, absolutely not.
Yeah.
She's like, what would you pay? I said, 50. She's like, okay, I'll offer the guy 50. she offered the guy 50, and he laughed at her, and okay, whatever. Let's go buy this camper in Camper World, and we'll be done. I think that like a week later, we're getting ready to go sign the papers at Camper World. The next day, the guy messages us back and said, I can do it for like 55, and that's it. And she said 52, and you got a deal. Or
That's
something.
why. That's why you offer 50, folks. Yeah.
Long story short, bought the camper sight unseen out of Texas.
Damn.
Never
Yep.
seen it before in our lives until the day we got it.
Yep.
And it was like a 3-month process. It took forever to get it.
Sure.
We finally got it, and yeah, it is absolutely beautiful. It's like a 43-foot fifth wheel.
Big fucker.
Yeah, it's got 4 slides, refrigerator, oven, kitchen.
Wow.
Bunkhouse for the kids, master bedroom, washer, dryer. So we're investing our fishing money back into fishing.
Holy smokes.
That's where the boat went, to a truck and camper.
How many bedrooms?
2 bedrooms, but I should say 3. It has the master bedroom.
Yep.
Then it has a bedroom with double bunks, and then on top of that is a loft
Oh shit.
for like 2 or 3 other kids.
Oh, it has a loft.
It sleeps like 11 people or something.
Oh.
Yeah,
Yeah. Perfect.
yeah.
Because you have what? How many kids do you have officially?
5 that will be traveling with us.
Okay. And then you got some older ones.
Yeah, they don't count. They're older.
Yeah, they don't count.
They're
Okay.
adults now.
Yeah, shit. So everyone's got 2 beds in this thing.
Yeah, let's stretch out.
Right.
So yeah,
Plenty of room.
it's bittersweet because it's
It's a big cost.
I look at that camper as like, there's my opens. I could be fishing the opens, but instead I bought a camper. But it's the part of being married, having a family, is you compromise. So that's kind of our compromise. We bought the camper. It's kind of, we're setting ourselves up to make that transition
That can take you to the opens
into the
too.
opens. You know?
Yep. Yep.
So it's kind of a long-term thought process behind it, because it's going to help cut a little bit of costs. There's, the costs aren't that great a difference in a year of fishing, but now we have something that's ours, a
Yep.
place that's ours, and we're not spending all this money on food every day at a restaurant or fast food. So we can actually
Which is
cook our
a
own
lot.
meals. We have our own place to come to every time. My boat's not sitting in the hotel parking lot every night with
Right.
$15,000 in tackle sitting in it and crossing my fingers that it's still there in the morning, like.
Because groceries are only double the cost versus,
Probably about the same cost to go out to eat now.
But the big thing is you guys are a tight knit family.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys are together, and I think Jenna. It's easy for you to see the short term of, yeah, if I didn't have any kids, I could be fishing this or this or this right now. But she's a little bit more long sighted. Maybe, is that a good way to put it? Like, here's the deal: this camper,
This
8
this
years from
camper
now,
will allow
we are
us-
still going to be fishing at the opens because we're
Yeah.
able to do this.
Yeah. And that is kind of her, like, and I said, like, we kind of made a compromise. Like, okay, this year we'll get the camper, and as long as we have a successful year this year, not saying I'm going to win a boat or anything, but if we just do okay, cash and checks along the way, do okay, don't go backwards financially, then the opens be something we can seriously consider next year.
Right.
And then put all of our eggs in that basket, and the camper will, because I don't think people realize the cost of travel.
Oh, it's insane.
We went to Ross Barnett, as a family.
Well, last year was an especially bad year to go to Ross Barnett because gas was especially expensive
yeah.
last year.
Yeah, it was round trip there and back for us as a family to travel, and we didn't eat out. We lived out of that hotel. We cooked food out of the microwave and stuff, and it was still $5,000. So, and that $2,000 of that was a hotel fee, like.
Right.
And a campground. So we booked Lahamadou, which is the last tournament for the Champions Tour.
Yep.
Lahamadou. So we booked 2 weeks, assuming we have, or not 2 weeks, it's like 12 days.
Yep.
So we have a day to get there set up, and then 5 days of practice, fish Lahamadou, and then, like a 5-day of gap, and then the championship. So it's like 13 days or something like that. It was like $250.
Jesus.
So if that, and for Gull last season, you know what we paid to go from Gull to Serpent? We didn't leave. We stayed up in Brainerd. It was $2,500.
Oh my God, dude.
Yeah. Hotels are insane.
Well, especially with kids. Like,
That's the thing. So
I mean,
people are like, oh, like, you travel with your kids. Yeah, that's so expensive. What, to stay home? It's like, yeah, I get what people are saying. I understand
makes
that.
sense. Yeah.
It's so expensive. Number one, like what the wife always says, memories, right? It's something
Yep.
that always remember as long as they live. And number two, I don't have any distractions with staying with, no offense, like there's a lot of guys that stay together, right?
Yeah.
I tried that, and to me that was a distraction
I get that.
because you're going to the bar. You're drinking more beer than you should drink at night.
Yep.
You just have a hard time getting up in the morning.
Yep.
You're getting wrapped up in what other people's pre-fishing is doing, and you're starting to let it get into your head, and you're starting to practice that way. To me, that's why I don't stay with anybody. If I do go solo, I stay alone. I separate myself from everybody and everything so I can focus on what I want to focus on.
Sure.
And don't let any outside factors influence my practice and my tournament.
I love that. And Dane and I were that way. And we roomed with Ron and James Chapman. And that's been the best for us because those guys don't talk about a lot. And we don't talk about a lot. And we're kind of all on our own deal. But there's something to be said about.
I miss the socializing though, because I used to do it a lot, but I really miss that side of it, hanging out with the buds and drinking a few beers and stuff like that. But
our cabin's always open, bud.
I just tend to get carried away, and next thing you know, it's like midnight and I'm still drinking with the buddies and we're talking fishing, and it's like, how am I gonna get up at 4 a.m? And have this good practice. And like the best thing I found for me, which could be different for everybody, the best thing I found for me is I separate myself. I talk to people all day long on the phone, and
Sure.
we float in a boat and we'll see each other, we'll hang out, we'll BS, but at the end of the night, I need to get off the lake, I need to separate, do my own thing, I need to go to bed and reset and do it again the next day. And that's
right.
Everyone has their own jam, and it goes back to what we said earlier, just gotta find what works for you, and for me, it's going back to this year is gonna be camper. Seeing my kids, picking on them a little bit, BSing a little bit, having spaghetti, hopefully the wife cooks me some spaghetti, and have a couple beers and go to bed, and
Right.
kind of just mentally reset and do it again.
Well, there's like this invisible resistance in life that is always there, no matter what. There's some sort of resistance in life, and that could be resistance to shovel your driveway. That could be resistance to do something you need to do, or resistance to not do something. For example, I stay with Ron Mayer, James Chapman, and Dane Vasilka. James Chapman, it takes you are encouraging resistance when you stay with James Chapman because you don't want to stay up too late. You don't want to take that pull of Windsor Black Cherry.
That's what I'm saying.
And then there's the other side of it where there's that resistance of, I don't want to get out of bed today. I don't want to do the dishes. And overcoming that resistance
It's the hardest part.
is the hardest part.
Mm-hmm.
And it's key, though. And
See,
Doc Talk will burn you
It will.
if you listen to enough of it and let it consume your brain.
It will burn you because you're chasing somebody else's fish, and that is the worst thing you can do.
Well, and you mentioned this before, like when we were taking a piss break, is, you are to an extent who you associate yourself with, whether that's anybody or somebody.
Yep.
Who you surround yourself with will affect you in some way, shape, or form. So
100%. I would 100% believe that. You look at, so the best way to have anybody understand this is anybody that follows bass fishing and tournament fishing, you look at Jacob Wheeler.
Yep.
In the last how many years, who has he started rooming with? Dustin Connell
Connell and
Mark Daniels Jr.
Yep.
Adrian Avina.
Yep.
Look at their success. Has
All of them.
skyrocketed.
All of them. Yep.
Like they went from good fishermen to now they're at top level, top 5%. And I'm not saying it's Jacob Wheeler that did it, but you surround yourself with greatness, you know, and like it just, you hold yourself to that standard at some point.
Bingo. You're all great, and you're all going to be great together.
Yeah.
And nobody gets there alone.
Well,
Not completely.
Red
You wouldn't
Crest.
get there without Jenna, with
Yeah.
the family.
Mm-hmm. And I feel like they're like my reality check to stay away from my past.
Right.
Because I was easily swayed to make bad decisions. Like so now it's like, okay, I just come back to my kids, my family.
It's your sense of grounding, so to speak. It's your boundary.
Yep.
It's your back to reality, and it's that nice transition from I'm fishing to I'm back to reality. I'm fishing to I'm back to reality versus back to lose yourself somewhere along.
Yeah.
some
And up at the
line.
bar, next thing you know, it's 2 a.m. And you have a tournament in 3 hours. You're fishing for $15,000.
Right.
How are you gonna win?
I can't.
So it's
I don't work that way. Figgy's a guy who
He's
works
the
that
exception.
way.
He's the exception.
Nope, find you a nice Russian girl and win the Derby. Like, Jesus.
Oh shit! But no, like I said, you know, you kind of surround yourself with some people, and like look at Redcrest. Who's in the top 10? Jacob Wheeler, Dustin Connell, Adrian Avina. The only person that didn't make it was Mark Daniels Jr.
Right.
And he was right there.
Yep.
Like, there's something to be said about that, you know. Like,
Totally.
you push each other, you push each other, you push each other, and that's kind of how I've come up too. Like all my buddies back home, like we all think we have the best fishermen in our circuits in the state, you know. Like,
Right.
well, I truly believe the guys back home,
Yep.
they are some of the best shallow water fishermen you will ever meet.
I believe it.
Ever.
I believe it.
Like, it is insane. And there's a handful of guys that pushed me to fish and learn offshore. And, like, I'm glad they don't fish a Champions Tour. But it's like they pushed me and pushed me and pushed me and pushed me because I wanted to win. I wanted to win. And if I didn't have them constantly pushing me and beating me, then who knows where I'd be, you know?
Dude, you need competition. You need
Yeah.
people better than you. You need to put yourself in a situation that's maybe not that cushy job that you had. You need adversity. You need all of those things. I mean, Rogan said it, or people have said it, you know, good times create, or bad times create strong men create good times create weak men. And that cycle continues to go round and round. And I mean, there's a lot to be said about that, dude. There's
when you come up from nothing, you learn to appreciate everything.
And I think that's the epitome of you, man, is you haven't been given anything and you don't take anything for granted.
No.
I mean, a lot of people would win a boat and say, you know, I made it, right? But for you, that's more fuel. Like, you just pour gas on your fire. And
I want
and
more and more and more.
It's a pleasure fishing against guys like you because I just want to get better. And the only way I do that is to, you know, go get my teeth kicked in and you know, really just hone in. But I won't do that fishing against, you know, the little sisters of the poor. It's not going to happen.
Oh, shit.
You can feel good about yourself whooping up on some crippled kids, but at the end of the day, like,
You're not going to get any better.
you're not going to get any better.
No. Well, you got to get your teeth kicked in. And then the thing is like, I always do. Like people see the good things, but there's so much more of the getting your ass whooped that people don't talk about and focus on.
Totally,
Like,
dude.
It's, man, you get your ass kicked a lot fishing.
You do. And I think
Like,
you're kind of like me, where learning to take those licks is hard.
It's so hard. Like, mentally I struggle with that. Like, you go from the highest to highest. I go from gull and serpent. Like, I'm on top of the world.
Yep.
And my next tournament is Mille Lacs.
Yep.
Boom, get my teeth kicked in.
Big stone.
Big
what
stone.
have
Get
it.
my teeth kicked in. I'm like, I'm selling my boat. I can't fish. Who am I? Like,
I suck.
I suck.
I didn't
selling
catch a
everything.
bass on Lake Hartwell. Like, I suck. Like, why? Like, dude, you qualify for the national championship. Whatever it is. Like, we psych ourselves out. We're our own worst enemy that way. But I can't believe I made it this far without having to pee. Do you want to wrap this up, or do you want to?
Yeah. I got kids. I
Those
promise.
kids want you back.
I would tuck in, and I'm not going to make it. So
Well, yeah, we can't have too much more space dust, or else you'll never make it home.
that's true. That's true.
But, dude, congrats on another boat.
Thank
Congrats on another awesome year, dude. It's been a pleasure fishing against you, having you out here. It means the world. So thanks so much for making the trip, and I always enjoy talking to you, man.
Anytime,
Dude,
anytime.
appreciate it,
It's
dude.
awesome coming here.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Checking in, checking out.